the Sooners are down 14 points to Carolina in the first ever meeting. Hawkins, freshman, takes it in the pocket, gets in as he throws it into coverage again, and picked up again at the 40 of Carolina down the near sideline. That's Eman Worry towards the end zone. Are you kidding me? Touchdown Carolina. Touchdown Nick Eman Worry.
This is 365 Sports.
High throw, it's picked off. Jahdae Barrett taking it all the way back.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Here's Sharp. The drop 8 into coverage. Touchdown, Louisville! Ja'Cory Brooks!
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Another pick. This one's got space, and Oklahoma is out of bounds at the 2 with Danny Stutzman. What a read by the linebacker.
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
Muse is knocked down. Jacob Parrish is feeling it.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go. 365 Sports on a Wednesday, churning towards the last weekend, the final weekend of the basketball season when it comes to deciding who's going to be in the tournament. Some teams know. Most of them do. But then you have the conference tournament, the championship games that are allowing the Cinderellas to move on, and then they become Cinderella at a different level with the NCAA tournament. One note, by the way, we mentioned Delaware. They were beaten by UNC Wilmington. That game was yesterday, so their little run is over. Meanwhile, Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak with me, David Smoak in the studio, Andrew Valade getting a little cocky in day 3. You notice that, Paul?
He did the triple option today, and I walked in. I said, "Are you feeling good?" And he's like, "What kind of question is that?"
Yeah.
Don't come in there with that weak sauce.
Yeah, to slap it out, reject it. Craig was here with us. Craig, what do you think? How the first day was a little rocky? It would be like me trying to set up a roadcaster. And except he's got 9 screens. And then yesterday we got better. But today we will be watching you on the clock. Craig, I think for the most part, since he had never really done that alone, flying solo, he did okay.
Yeah, I think you need to give him some credit because he was completely without any help on Monday. And that would have psyched out a lot of people. So I think Andrew's doing very well. And, yeah, there's some gremlins here and there, but that happens even with people who have been doing it a long time. So I think we're good to go, and, he's a good guy to have behind the scenes.
Iowa State is into the next round, the semifinals in the Big 12 tournament up in Kansas City. Second round, they're into the next round, and they get Houston next. Iowa State beating Cincinnati 76-56. Game at halftime now, West Virginia leads Colorado in a low-scoring game, 29-23. And then tonight, Baylor will play another Scott Drew, Jerome Tang matchup, and UCF and Kansas will play in the nightcap tonight.
How much do you love the 8:30 tip time in your household, Paul?
Don't care
That's not
for it.
terrible, but
actually, Andrew's parents offered us their Baylor. Like they had a couple tickets for Baylor in Houston the other night, and I was like, "What time's the game?" Because I kind of knew.
I'll tell you.
And it was like 9 o'clock, and I was like, even on a Saturday night, I'm like, "Nah, man, no."
Turned out to be a hell of a game.
It did turn out to be a really good game. But, man, it just tells you that I'm really deep into my 40s when somebody tells me something starts at 9.
Yep.
When normally in my past it would have been like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
I particularly don't like it because if Amanda decides that she's going to bed before the game's over, it is like sleeping next to a paint shaker. Because she, like, tosses and turns.
Oh, God, yeah.
So.
Paint shaker.
I mean, it is. It's just like
I called Paul earlier today because I had a couple of questions, had a meeting with the sponsor, And he said his refrigerator was empty. Why did I ask you if your refrigerator might have been empty?
You asked me if it was empty because if we were gone or if I'm not allowed to cook. So the best thing is to keep everything out of messiness. And Amanda said yes to both.
Yeah, you're starting to get to know me better.
Yeah.
All right, Paul gave us this graphic of the teams that have won a national championship since 2002. The teams on top have won a national title, top 40 in offense and top 25 in defense. The teams in the current, right now moment, tournament doesn't start till next Tuesday with a couple of play-in games. In the moment, the teams at the bottom, Duke, Auburn, Houston, Florida, Tennessee, Marquette, UCLA, Louisville, Michigan State, Iowa State, and Maryland and Clemson are in that criteria, even though some of those maybe are more of a long shot, maybe not a long shot, but I didn't see St. John's in there. I don't see Texas Tech in there. There's a couple of teams I don't see in there. Alabama is not in there, but every year since 2002, the teams that have won it all, multiple times or not, have been in that top bracket of top 40 offense, top 25 in defense per Ken Palm.
There are, of those, was it 12? Of those 12, 10 of them I can stomach winning a title. If Clemson or Florida do it.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, and look, Florida's got a new coach, and Florida State's got a new coach, and Luke Laux. So maybe my things are going to start turning up, but man, like, that's just really rough to see. Florida's really good. You want to know a weird stat that I saw today, and I should have sent this out to follow this up, but Florida has their first team All-American this year.
Clayton?
Yeah, and that is a wild thing to think, considering that a decade and a half ago, they won back-to-back national titles, and Joakim Noah was not a first-team All-American.
Yeah, that's hard to imagine.
Or Horford or Mike Miller or any of the people they had were not first-team All-Americans, which makes me kind of think, like, damn, Billy Donovan was really good that he won and didn't have what the writers consider to be a super stud. But the Gators are good. Duke, man, Cooper Flagg is something else. Bruce Pearl is really irritating, but he's got a good team. And I would love to see Kelvin Sampson get a title. I really would. I mean, the guy, like, he's one of the best coaches there is that doesn't have one yet. And he's certainly, gotten as close to earning one as anybody else has. If they could finally break through, that would be cool for them.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really unique list and interesting, more so than a lot of the things that we see like this that say, like, well, since 2019, there's been it's been 3 years. I mean, what really kind of a pattern is that? So I find some of that to be kind of silly, but this dating back as long as it does, I think is actually pretty cool. And there's clearly something to that you're top 40 in offense and top 25 in defense when it's happened 20-plus years in a row. Would love to see Houston finally raise the big trophy there at the end and cut down those nets. It obviously would be a big deal if either them or Iowa State could do so for the Big 12 and just for their respective programs more than anything. I mean, forget the conference. Just to do that for either one of those teams and coaches would be a massive deal. So, yeah, that would be cool. I think there's some other teams would be cool to see hoisted as well. But if you look at the latest odds, and I tried to find the absolute latest, I'm no betting expert, but I am pretty okay at Google. And so looking at the odds to win the men's basketball tournament, the best odds in the country, there's Duke at the top, Auburn's 2, Florida's 3, Houston's 4, and then Bama's not on there. But I mentioned them. Bama's number 5 best odds, but they're not on there. Tennessee's on there. Michigan State's on there. Iowa State's on there. And then St. John's, as you mentioned. And so that's like pretty much the 2, 4, 6, 8. And then Kentucky would be the next one. That's not on there. That's in the top 10 of the best odds. So, yeah, that's a pretty good shot that if you bet on a good portion of those teams, Vegas agrees with you. They have pretty great odds to win the national championship, but there are a couple of teams in there like Kentucky, St. John's, and I guess more than a couple, with Alabama there in that top 10 that could maybe break this streak here coming the next few weeks.
So there you are. That's the teams that, and there's a few others that are a part of the mix that have a chance to make a run. But those are the ones that won it at the top, and it's amazing how consistent that particular stat, that data. Evan Miyakawa will join us tomorrow, one of the great breakdowns, the stats and analytics and data. He will join us on the show tomorrow. Now, we had, Matt Brown on Monday. Paul, you were out of pocket. He was great about many, many things. I saw this yesterday evening. Paul, you sent this out as well for both Craig, me, and everyone else. Hearing from multiple industry people, I have trust that several D1 schools are at least having serious internal talks about reclassifying out of D1 before July and the House settlement would become official. Now, again, there's the April 7th hearing or whatever. I'd be a little surprised if nobody ends up doing this year. Budget cuts may force some hands.
Yeah, I mean, this is the reality of the big money that's being thrown around, and I think the harsh part of it, but could be maybe a good thing for just planning it going forward, is what do you want to be? Like, do you want to be in this new thing? Do you have the resources? Do you have, if you don't have the resources but you're close, do you feel like you have the ability to go and raise that and do that, or do you not? Because if not, then decide who you're going to be now so that you don't make a decision that puts you in a financial hole for years to come.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's much of a surprise that not everybody's going to be able to, cash those checks or write those checks for that matter. It's just not all that realistic that you're going to have as many schools as are a part of the dance right now that are going to be able to come by that money. So naturally, some on the lower end of that top tier of those trying to do so are probably going to get a rude awakening, or they're going to wake up before they get to that point and realize that they're going to need to probably avoid that rude awakening. And so, I don't know who those schools would be. I saw him in the comments section kind of going back and forth, like somebody made mention of, like, I heard a rumor that so-and-so shutting down. He's like, no, that's not true. So I don't know, like, specifics on this at all, and I'm not sure how much he specifically knows in terms of the schools themselves. But, I mean, I feel like we've had this same story like 5 times. And in terms of schools are not going to be able to pay the piper across the board. There's going to be some that just simply aren't going to be able to do it. It's a matter of if they realize it now or if they realize it in the next few years. But either way, not everybody's going to be able to keep swimming in the same pool, and every single measure taken so far has basically gone towards making sure that's what happens, is that there is more of a break-off. There is more of a slimming of that top pool of schools competing for the national championship. And so I don't know how close to home it'll get for most people, but yeah, we're going to see some schools but will it register? I don't know, because who are we talking about? Mm-hmm. We talking about Tulane.
Are we talking about football or basketball? What do you think?
I think we're talking about football.
I am too. Yeah, no question.
I don't think basketball's. I know we want it to be for selfish reasons, whether that be because you're a hoops head and you just want basketball to be like the hip sport, the best sport, or if you are somebody who has some sort of pride riding on that being the case. For example, you want your conference to get the big payout because of basketball. And so you've heard Brett Yormark, for example, if you're a Big 12 fan, talk about bifurcating, all these things. And so you hope that basketball is going to be worth that kind of money. But right now, I think everybody's panicking how they pay football. And then basketball comes next for probably 99.9% of schools, obviously, that have both programs. But, yeah, I think football is the one that's going to put people in a real lurch, because basketball, you can, go pay one guy and, win some games, or a couple guys. You can figure out a way to do that. Trying to fill out 11 just on the field at one time, 22, and then special teams, that's a whole different matter. So, yeah, there's clearly going to be some attrition, but every move, again, as I said, has been towards creating some level of attrition. Whether by design or by happy accident, that's what the big warning bells have been for the last couple of years. So, yeah, unless those are just massive false alarms and everybody's got way more money than we think, then, yeah, there's going to be more attrition.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if one or two, maybe, I don't know about the first year. Let this thing play itself out.
But maybe not the first year, but eventually I think people are going to see the bills come due and go like, oh, geez.
But I do think there are, like, it's going to be, I think it's more probably tough conversations with your higher up alumni and donors of, all right, this is what we're going to have to do. Like, either you guys help us get there, or if you can't, then we can't. Like, this is just not the thing is that especially if you're a private school, there's only so much money you can raise, and not everybody can be Stanford and have this, endowment that could, kind of cure the hungry if they decided to break into it. But, I would say that, the smallest you can get and really compete in football, the D1 level at a private school is going to be someone like a Boston College or a Wake Forest. Like, they're established, they're big enough, but they're not very big, and they're not going to get bigger. I mean, it's not like you could just say, like, all right, well, we at Wake Forest or Baylor or, like, TCU, we have to double our enrollment. Like, well, where are you going to put them?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be any schools
no,
like
it's
that.
like that.
Yeah.
But, like, so you've got private schools that are smaller than that. They're going to have to make the decision. And then some state schools that are just not very big at all that you can't just decide, all right, well, we need to double our, our student body, that way we can grow. Well, that just doesn't happen overnight either.
And it might be a couple years before anybody does that because, Matt pointed out, like, nobody wants to be first. And it could be just a big false alarm, and everybody's going to be A-okay. But I just have a hard time believing that seeing how much people have stretched their budgets in certain cases or, has gone to the well so many times to go to the well and then ask for more than you've ever asked for before, basically, and to do it every single year. Is going to be a tough ask for probably some programs. And so as I brought up yesterday, if you don't have certain boosters that can cover these expenses, if you're a smaller school that doesn't have a lot of big-time people, like you're not Ohio State that can just call a hotline and there's 10 massive donors on there, then it's probably going to be – it's not probably, it's going to be more difficult for you. We hear it with Baylor. We heard it from Mac Rhodes the last time he sat in here. What did he say the biggest issue was? And we got a question on the podcast like a week ago, and – I don't sunshine pump for Baylor fans. I just don't. I tell the truth as clear as day as I possibly can, and it's not always what people want to hear, but at least they hear the truth, and they don't sit there and get this sugar-coated, like, pretend scenario that just makes them sleep better tonight. And so to cut through the sugary stuff, just look at our interview with Mac Rhodes, and he talks about the struggles they have is being small and not having a lot of donors that you can call. You have, like, the same 3 people that you call for every single project, and that's problematic because now you're calling them even more and asking for even more. And if you only have that handful of people or maybe a couple handfuls in their cases, then it's going to be a much difficult task. So imagine being even smaller than they are and then asking – like what, 1 donor or 2 maybe that are able to float your programs and then say like, yeah, we need like an extra $12 million every year to pay our basketball players. Like I just don't know how feasible that is. I hope I'm dead wrong and everybody's just floating along all nicely. But yeah, it does feel like there's been enough ominous warnings that there's going to be some attrition of some sort.
Yeah,
and that's just the unfortunate part.
Sorry about that. It like, for example, this is not to say that they would opt out or drop or decide not to move forward, but with Jamie Pollard and what he said when he saw the Arizona State subsidy story, and I know we just had Jamie on, and we'll maybe see him. I'm not sure about next week at the Pro Days in Frisco, but yeah, at least it's not like just, oh, okay, that's just another 50 or 25 or whatever the million was that Arizona State received to balance the budget. Not everybody can. Arizona State's a big school. Good for them. Good for them. And some schools eventually might just not be able to keep paying $5 a gallon for gasoline.
Yeah, and I also think it's kind of pointless to sit here and fearmonger and worry too much about it. Like, when that happens, it happens. It might not happen for a couple years. So who's to sit here and really worry about it all that much right now? Let the schools figure it out for themselves, and you hope that they all figure out a way that everybody can keep doing what they've been doing for years. But I also know it's an industry where they very much like to fearmonger and throw some things out there. So I wouldn't be surprised if people who aren't exactly happy with the way things are going are trying to spook people a little bit, spreading stuff through people like Matt. So take it for what it's worth. But, yeah, I mean, I don't think you lose any sleep over it unless you're the athletic directors who have a program such as that where you are in a position that he's explaining where you are on the cusp of maybe having to make some tough decisions. But I think that's the minority right now. So let's see how it plays out.
And part of it, like you mentioned, the fear-mongering part of that, Craig, is, they'll do that to maybe shock people into it. Like, hey, you better, we're not kidding, if you haven't bucked up, if you want this to stay, and we'll see what happens. I think there will be some attrition either now or into the future, especially 2031 when all these TV deals come up and they might reshuffle the whole deck. There might be some schools that go hey, we have to do something completely different altogether. So
that's 6 years from now.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, we'll see when we get there. And so, like I said, unless you're one of those athletic directors at those schools, you're probably freaking out a little bit right now. But for everybody else, it's business as usual, I feel like.
All right, so we appreciate those of you who have already joined us today on 365 Sports on YouTube, and then on 365 Sports YT, which is on Twitter, which some of you are watching us or listening to us right there and then. Kirby Smart, it's been pretty good, hasn't he, guys? Georgia, they had 2 straight national championships. Last year's team won a couple of big games against Texas, but they just couldn't quite get over the top and win a third because no one has done that since, the 40s or 50s with Minnesota. But it's been a program, when you win, the spotlight gets even more of a glare on you. I mean, it's just more intense. They were good, but they did seem to be missing something. Maybe it was Carson Beck at quarterback, that he wasn't as sharp as we would expect. Maybe it was the fact they couldn't block for him or whatever it was.
Maybe it's he got hurt at the end of the year when they were trying to go win a title.
Yeah, yes, exactly. But it did seem like they were off a tick. But when you have been as dominant as they were, it's like if Alabama one year didn't win the SEC or didn't play for a championship. It's hard to keep that, but they are still really, really good. So Kirby Smart, I think, this is my opinion. I'm going to play you about a 50-second comment from him, audio clip, and you tell me what you think he really is saying besides the obvious. I think that Kirby knows that it's not that things got loose despite some of the off-the-field issues, and there were a few of those. I think Kirby knows it's easier to get to the top and stay there than it is to get there. It's harder to stay there than it is to get there. Here's Kirby Smart.
Yeah, with this team and there's so much newness, what do you hope to learn about them this spring?
Yeah, I want to see the fire. I want to see the passion, the energy. I want to see who wants to be a good football player, who really cares about this game. They care more about the game than they do about their NIL revenue stream. If you really, really, really care about the game and you want to be good, it doesn't matter about any kind of money. It matters how I play the game. And more we're seeing across college football, the purest, the ones that care about the game the most, play the hardest. And usually the team that plays hardest wins. I know everybody thinks it's just whoever's more talented, but there's a whole lot to how hard you play and how much you care about it. So my goal is to find out, how hard do you want to play? How much do you really want to be great? Because if you do, it'll show by how you practice.
All right, there he is.
Hey, he's also not going to use a GM, by the way.
Well, okay, There's a decision he makes. Maybe he thinks that that's just a title that's wasted money. I don't know.
Well, he talked about it today, so that was one of the things from the press conference was that he's not hiring a GM.
Yeah, but that's also why I brought up the yeah, you're right.
Yeah, you're saying you don't know. I'm saying that's what he talked about today.
No, I know he did. He said that about the GM. I don't know if I said I don't know. I said he doesn't want a GM. He doesn't. I guess I said I don't know if he just doesn't believe in it or not. Whatever he said in the press conference. What did he say?
He said we got a lot of people in charge of roster management, including myself, including our football ops staff is involved, our operations, player development, player personnel staff. Everybody gets involved in that. It's a team effort. We've reorganized and restructured some things in terms of what falls under whose duty and whose aspects, but I'm not ready to run off and go hire somebody that's just going to make all the decisions for what goes on the football field. I think I've got to stay involved in that heavily. We've got the capacity and the quality of the people in the areas that I think we need, so I think we'll be fine in that world as it changes. So that was his reasoning, is he feels like they don't need it. They don't need to have more resources. They've got enough to take care of what needs to be taken care of, and so that was what he had to say in terms of no GM.
What do you think he was saying? I think that he knows they got a little loose And I'm not talking so much off the field as they got a little loose. It's hard to stay there. You have to sharpen the edge. Saban was the best at it. And I think he wants to see some, like he said, he wants to see those who want to play football.
Yeah, I do think that it's and I'm not pointing out Carson Beck here, but this is the dude who went and bought a couple cars and a Lamborghini and had all that thing. I think that bothers coaches. Now, whether that did anything to the team, if those things do that, I think he needs an addendum on what he said. Like, those who don't care about money and care about the game, like, they will, like, the money will find them. Like, the guys who are most passionate about things are the ones who usually the money's going to find them. That's the message. But I do like what he said. Like, yeah, part of it is, they've back-to-back national championships, and then all of a sudden you've got NIL. Yeah, there's going to be people coming. There's going to be people who are using Georgia for NIL as opposed to maybe being the best football player you can be, because Georgia is going to get you more NIL off the bat than a lot of places will.
This is something Sarkisian's done a hell of a job with at Texas. They're getting everything they want, the players, recruiting all the big stars, getting all these high classes and superstar players in the portal, too, our star players in the portal, and sometimes just the Army ants. But he's been able to kind of separate that from Texas. Now, the one thing Sark hasn't done, he's trying to get there, he's been close, is actually win a championship and then find out whether they can sustain it at that level.
I was going to say, that's great for Texas, but I'd take Georgia's results over UT's results over the last 5 years. Hands down, is not even a question when you're talking about a couple of national titles. So, yeah, I mean, look, Texas has done a good job. They have every resource known to man. To compare them to most other programs is an unfair comparison. Because most other programs don't have nearly the resources that they have. Now, Georgia's one of those that comes close, but they still don't have the resources that Texas has. So I think it's just different strokes for different folks. And for Kirby, I think he likes to have control. I don't think it's necessary to delegate every little thing to somebody, but some coaches might feel like it is a better thing to do. So, some coaches probably love having a guy that's handling some of those GM duties that are just not of interest, or maybe not as important that he's hands-on with that. And for Kirby, it sounds like I think he's probably a guy that wants a little bit more control over everything. And in terms of just like the overall message, like every coach starting spring ball wanting hungry players that want to do it the right way. And like it's kind of, though, hard to take him 100% at face value when he's also making like $10+ million a year and he's talking about doing it for the love of the game. Now, I know he would do it if it was just $2 million a year, and that's still a hell of a lot of money. I do think Kirby Smart's a guy, though, it's not in it for the money per se, but I think these coaches need to be a little bit self-aware when they talk about passion for the game and doing it for all the right reasons. It's like, you sit there and you're making $11 million. It's easy for you to talk about passion of the game and all that, and you're talking about a player who's making, like a couple $100,000 or something along those lines, and he's 18 years old, so it's two different, cases, but sure, guess what, guys? Injecting millions of dollars and giving some players some of those millions or hundreds of thousands of those millions, and having a team like his where multiple guys are rolling around in Dodge Chargers and various very expensive and fun vehicles. Like, yeah, there's going to be distractions, and yeah, they're not going to be all locked in all the time. So I think that's part of what he's dealing with, is just it was hard enough to wrangle guys in as it was and keep them all the way locked in year to year to year. But now when your roster's flipping constantly and you add in the money element to this that's not $100 handshakes and all behind the scenes, then, yeah, it's a hell of a lot harder now than it ever was to keep everybody focused all the time, especially when you're winning, because then you have guys who may be super talented, but they're not coming in there thinking like, we got to start at day one. They're thinking like, Georgia's won back-to-back national titles. I'm making $500,000. I'm driving a $75,000 vehicle. Like, boom, let's play some football. And they're not like the hungry guy. He still wants the hungry guys. It's just a lot harder to have those hungry guys because of the way the system's set up now.
So I love hearing some of the coaches, and you can kind of pick and choose what you think might be a little bit of just sending messages to his team, which he probably was. He already has. Sure. Or just him also on record saying, okay, we've had a pretty damn good run the last 4 to 5, 6 years, and even before that. But I think it sounds like he wants to tighten the ship a little bit, which is hard. That's what made Saban's run so stupid good. That's what made, and I'm going to use this as an example, what Barry Switzer did for so long at Oklahoma. what Bobby Bowden, do you know he had like 13 consecutive double-digit win seasons and won a couple of national titles, right, Paul? 93 and also 99. Osborne, those type coaches that were so consistent, and yet Saban took it to another level, maybe not quite as long, but what he did in that amount of time he was at Alabama was just incredible. And when he retired, no matter how much, like the year before, the year he retired, Texas beat him, and Sark did in Tuscaloosa, everybody was taking a deep breath going, thank God he's out of the conference.
Yeah, I also think at the same time he did a lot of that in an era that doesn't even exist now at this point. And I think Kirby Smart's won double digits in 7 out of his 9 seasons at Georgia. He's also won a couple of national titles there, and like Saban, has had all that success. He still never won 3 national titles in a row. That's still the impossible feat, and he even wasn't able to accomplish that. But I also don't think we have a full grasp of what Saban, if he had coached another 5 years, of what that would have looked like.
Yep.
I mean, does Alabama win another national title in the NIL era? I guess we'll find out with Kalen DeBoer, and we'll always have that what if with Nick Saban. But yeah, there's a pressure on a job like Georgia's that Kirby Smart's dealing with that is unique, not just to them, but to very few schools that, you win a couple national titles, that would be good enough to give you a golden statue. And at Georgia, they're like, all right, where's the next one? So I think the best advice I ever got in starting to cover college football was whenever you're listening to a coach, just pretend you're a player. That's who he's talking to 99% of the time, is they're talking to the players, maybe the players' families or something like that. But for the most part, they're speaking to their team through the media. So, yeah, he's clearly just putting it in his guys' heads as spring ball gets underway of doing it the right way and trying to root out the money and the cars and the women and whatever else are usual distractions, whether it's the NIL era or it's the 1980s. So that's just good football coaching.
By the way, our guest lineup, and we'll get to one of them here in just a moment, Eugene Repay. He covers Iowa State. They won earlier today. We mentioned that. And he's with the Des Moines Register about Iowa State as they're in the thick of this Big 12 tournament, plus a little bit about football. John Cooper, Our Lad's Guide to the NFL Draft. Chris Crutchfield from the University of Omaha, basketball coach. They're in the tournament. It's a great Cinderella story. Nikki Colin, Baylor women's coach, at around 4:45 today. Joseph Duarte on the Houston Cougars, as they just went rolling right through the Big 12, except that one hickey when Texas Tech beat them in Houston. We'll look at one of the ACC teams scheduled, Duke today, and Paul Catalina's top 5. So we are loaded from start to finish. One more story. I thought this was pretty cool. I don't always agree with a lot of any of the thoughts coming out of what happens in Washington, D.C. We've discussed that before. But when a team is under investigation and student athletes are a part of that investigation, who in the past has represented them?
No one.
The school?
Yeah, I mean,
maybe.
And the thing is, because there's not a formal thing, and it noted in this that whatever the governance structure, which I know was voted on a couple hours ago, that they have an idea of what that's going to be to comply with the House settlement, but this gives them a chance to be represented, and there's especially when it comes to Title IX hearings, a lot of things like that, they have these kangaroo courts. And you can't have a lawyer. And if I'm just any kind of citizen, if you tell me I can't have a lawyer, my response to that is the F I can't have a lawyer. This is still the United States of America, right? So this maybe brings it more in line with, just simple rights as an American citizen.
Well, Marsha Blackburn and Cory Booker were the ones introducing the bill. Due process for athletes, coaches, and schools, not just the athletes, but coaches also in schools, as far as NCAA investigations.
So you never really explained the story itself. You asked Paul the question, but so what's the story?
So basically, before, with the NCAA oversight, so you're Craig University. I've decided to investigate Craig University, and because you're a member of the NCAA, you don't really get to, you can sue me after it, but I don't get any due process inside the investigation. So if I've been accused of something, if I'm all those things, you kind of just have to go about it inside their process. This gives them allowed to have outside counsel, allowed to have other things. Whether it gets through or not, who knows?
The NCAA has an unacceptable history of backroom deliberations that unfairly punish athletes, coaches, and universities, and we must ensure that all of them who worked their entire lives to compete at the college level are not bogged down trying to with inconsistent investigations, and then they go on and on and on with more words. But they're saying that they're trying to at least give those who are being investigated more of a representation and a way to try to get this thing moving along. Now, remember, when they go to the House settlement, when that becomes official, Deloitte is going to be the ones that do that. That they're the ones going to be involved in the investigation of their own members inside of whatever they're going to call that. That make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I just wanted to kind of understand that story a little bit. And so that sounds like it's promising for the athletes and I guess for the schools as well. I do hope that there is, in whatever this next era is, some better adjudication or punishment or just whatever thorough investigative process versus whatever kind of shadowy investigative crap the NCAA was trying to pull with all their investigators. I mean, that was the most, like, I think that was my biggest complaint with the NCAA was the complete inaccurate pictures painted or no pictures painted at all. Just like you just got to trust us that we're doing this. And then the inexplicable difference in results with certain investigations. You're like, wait, what? How did that get this? And then that story. And, like, some of it's just not understanding laws, too. Like, I remember there's been a couple times where schools have, quote-unquote, gotten in trouble, and people are like, they need this. And, well, that's not technically their jurisdiction. But for what is their jurisdiction, I felt like nobody knew what the hell they were actually doing. You just knew that somebody was getting investigated for doing something wrong, and then on the other end, like, they either lost a lawsuit or, you know, it went away or whatever.
And the thing is, do you know who doesn't know what's going on? The people who are being investigated. Right,
athletes,
so
that's
the coaches and the athletes. Like if you've been investigated for a recruiting violation or an impermissible benefit or breaking some kind of rule, and the NCAA does it, you just find out 3 years later, like, oh yeah, we found out you were dirty, you son of a bitch.
Yeah,
and then that's all they do, and you're like, but I didn't know this the whole time. You could ask anybody, like, hey, how's the investigation going? Hell, I don't know.
I just wish that thought process was. Get inside of a hearing, freaking make a decision, let whoever's being accused of something, whether they're guilty or not, have a chance to respond, and don't take 5 years to get to it.
I think that
some of them have died on the vine.
I think that's what it's going to be.
Yeah,
I think that's what their goal is. So we'll see if that works out in the way that they want it to. But
okay. When we come back, we will start our guest Eugene Repay. He covers Iowa State. They won earlier today. John Cooper, Chris Crutchfield, a lot of mixture. We will have Brent Severin, who played for the Dallas Stars in their '99 Stanley Cup championship team, who's also a guest studio host, analyst, or whatever you want to call it for the Stars, and a part of Victory Plus, the streaming broadcast. Going to join us possibly on Friday. I'm trying to push it back so Garrett Ross, our hockey expert, can be a part of that segment if we can sometime next week.
To be honest with you, I thought it was an asinine idea to have a hockey guy when our hockey guy's not even here. I was all for it. We could roll through it, but I just felt like it's like having a soccer fan in studio and then having a soccer guest the week that he's not here. You know?
No, I get it, but at the same time, when they offer you a guy and he's available, he may not be available next week. But we're going to have him on.
Doesn't carry said William Floyd in the show like 3 times when I've been gone.
Only when you deservedly were suspended for half a show.
Yeah.
All right. When we come back, we'll hear from Eugene Repay. He's up in Kansas City. Big 12 men's tournament going on. This is 365 Sports. Petty Clinic, lowt.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man you want to be, need to be, and used to be as you get older. Mid to late 30s, early 40s, there's a chance 1 out of every 3 or 4 men, testosterone levels drop. Could be you. Some of the symptoms are your energy's not the same. Your focus is not the same. You just don't feel the same, and yet you're living a good style, a good life. You're fit, you have exercise, and you have a great diet, but something's missing. And it just could be as simple as your testosterone level is dropping. And if that's the case, Dr. Petty can help you out. Contact them, pettyclinic.lowt.com. Tell them I sent you. And they will get you set up to get your blood work. He will get the results. And if your testosterone level, this is for men only, drops or is lower than it needs to be, he can put you in a program to increase it at pettyclinic.lowt.com.
month at Allen Samuels in Waco. Right now, drive home a 2025 Ram 1500 Laramie Crew Cab or Ram Lone Star Crew Cab, both with massive $15,000 off MSRP. Looking for unbeatable value? Drive home a Ram 1500 Tradesman Quad Cab starting at just $35,995, or upgrade to a Tradesman Crew Cab for only $37,995. These deals won't last long. Hurry to Allen Samuels today.
Come by, let's be friends.
I'll never get used to this.
Whatever it is you wrangle, whatever seeds you sow, no matter what you nurture or what you choose to grow, at Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, we're proud to protect all Texans.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow at GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Eugene Repay of the Des Moines Register in Kansas City, Iowa State, taking care of business and beating Cincinnati 76-56 at a 9-point lead at halftime, and seemed like they've kind of righted the ship. And Eugene joins Greg Smoak, Paul Catalina, and David Smoak on 365 Sports in KC. Find a little bit of a quiet place in those where they do the pressers. Eugene, thanks for your time. Iowa State, just kind of a nice, clean win. Move on, get ready for the next one.
Yeah, there was a little bit of a scare towards the end there if you're a Cyclone fan, especially when Taman Lipsey went down in the final minutes of the game with what appeared to be a groin injury. But according to Coach TJ Otzelberger and Taman Lipsey, they both claim that he'll be good to go for tomorrow. You can only take their word for it. I guess we'll see when they take on BYU. But for the rest of the game, it definitely felt like business as usual. Great play on both ends of the court for the Cyclones.
Eugene, they closed out very strong. I mean, I remember checking the score. They were up by 9, and then Cincinnati didn't score again for the last 3.5 minutes of the game. So they're on a roll. But you mentioned Lipsey getting hurt, and is health the most critical thing to this team? Because in their worst spots this season, it's been when they've been down a guy or two.
100%. Health has been the biggest thing that has held Iowa State from reaching its true potential. We saw what they looked like in the beginning of the season, especially in the first half of the year when they were just on a roll. And it felt like just as they were starting to heat up, they were dealt the Mila Momcilovic injury. Since then, it's been kind of like a revolving door. As soon as one guy comes, another guy comes off. At one point, it was Curtis Jones and Keyshawn Gilbert. So that has been the biggest hurdle for Iowa State as it just kind of tries to rebuild consistency. That has been the biggest difficulty for them so far. They're 20-2 now when they're at full strength. And obviously a different picture when they're not at full strength.
Eugene, take us inside Ames, man. What's kind of the talk about this team, and what's the talk about the ceiling for this team as we now get deep into March?
Yeah, there's just so much optimism and so much excitement for the team just from looking at what they've been able to attain this year. I mean, they reached number 2 in the AP ranking for the first time ever in school history. TJ Lotzelberger has just done a fantastic job as head coach, and just the 4 years that he's been here, elevating the program each season. But now the biggest concern is, the potential still seems to be pretty high. It still feels like they have the tools and the recipe to go far, but health has been the biggest concern as of late. And, whether or not Iowa State is able to quickly figure it out, especially as we come down the stretch here, they want this to be a fantastic story of how the team reached its first ever Final Four, and maybe not be looking back at it like, oh, what could have been if this player was healthy or if this had happened.
They just played BYU. That's the game in Ames. BYU won that game in overtime. Iowa State had a lead, a pretty nice, comfortable lead, and then BYU did. So very recent. Does that help that that's right there on their mind from a couple of weeks ago?
I think for both teams, it definitely helps a lot. For Cyclones, it gives them a little more fuel just because that was their senior night. That was supposed to be this brilliant send-off in a building that they don't typically lose in, especially over the last 2 years. But for Iowa State, that, like you said, that was just a crazy game. They were trailing by 21 points in the second half, somehow found a way to climb all the way back, push the game into overtime. They had their opportunities, but could not finish the comeback. And credit to BYU. Richie Saunders was an absolute beast that game. Keba Keita had some amazing rebounds and just great play on the glass. And as a result, BYU was able to hang on. I think Iowa State, just being on the losing end, has a little more fuel going into this one. But BYU has more rest, plenty of depth, and just plenty of length across that lineup.
Is this team, when healthy, is it built to the best way that it can be? Because it doesn't seem like they have holes at all. Like when they're out there full strength on the court, they don't really have a thing that they don't do well.
Yeah, I would agree with that statement, especially what we saw early in the year, just the way that they were able to push Auburn to such a, they were beating Auburn in Maui first half, built a big lead. Auburn came back and ultimately won on a last-second tip-in. But since then, that loss has sort of aged well, I guess you could say, in a way. Iowa State, when they're fully healthy, just clicking on all cylinders, the defense is definitely their backbone, and just their ability to generate turnovers and make opponents uncomfortable. And then offensively, it's always 3 to 4 guys that are scoring in double figures. There's not exactly one player you can key on or lock down, and then the rest of the team or the rest of the product suffers. So I just think that balance on both ends of the court has been huge for the Cyclones. And if they're healthy and if they're able to really get into a groove again, they can definitely be a team to watch out for in the big dance.
So BYU tomorrow, it's a grind. Man, you got to just keep on winning, because if you get through that, most likely, again, it might be Houston, who beat them by 9 earlier in the year. So playing early in the day, as TJ said much about the fact, I always thought that could be a dangerous game because you're not quite locked in, but that's tournament time. That's what you're going to do next Thursday or Friday or whenever. Get it out of the way and be able to rest your legs and watch everybody else the rest of the day if you do that, or you go back to the hotel or whatever you do.
Yeah, it seems like for Iowa State, especially just given their health situation right now, this is kind of a nice advantage in a way. You get to see what happens in the games ahead of you. You get a full day of rest before you go back into the game, and especially if you advance past tomorrow's, when it goes down to the semifinals, that's an extra, 6 to 8 hours of rest. And Iowa State's going to need every single second of it. The players don't really seem bothered by it. They did mention that it definitely throws the routine around when you have such an early start. Like they're getting up even earlier for shoot around. They don't have as much time during the day to really, walk through practice. Everything's a little more sped up, a little more express. But so far, it hasn't really seemed to bother them too much.
What have you seen from the rest of the tournament? Who is, in your opinion, locked in?
Oh man, I can't wait to still see how these top 4 seeds do. you get the double bye. Like, there's always that argument, like, is there such thing as too much rest, quote unquote? And, a team like Houston, they've been consistent all year, but can they do it when the lights are at the brightest? BYU is just red hot. I mean, there's so much to love about that team, just from their depth, being able to run 10 deep, 10 or 11 deep, so much length across the board. And then you look at Tech. Tech has always been ferocious. Grant McCaslin has done a great job this year. JT Toppin is dynamic. And Arizona, when they're able to get it going, they're just a difficult team to deal with on both ends of the court. So honestly, I guess we'll know more once the quarterfinal games tip off. But I'm just curious to see how those top 4 seeds do and how the rest of this tournament unfolds.
Eugene, they're in Kansas City, Missouri, by the way. Sometimes people get that mixed up, but it's not far. Iowa State fans are passionate. We know that. Was it a pretty heavy Iowa State flavor this morning?
Yeah, so this was my first Big 12 tournament, actually, and one of the things that I said was, wow, it's really amazing how much people came down from Ames, and I know they've called it, quote-unquote, Hilton South, but to actually see the amount of red in the seats today for an 11:30 a.m. tip-off on a Wednesday was impressive. And all anyone told me was wait until you see Thursday, or if they make it to Friday, wait until you see what that turnout looks like, or if they go to a title game, just how much fan support comes. And it was really impressive today. I'm excited to see what it'll look like tomorrow too, but definitely palpable buzz from Cyclone Nation.
So go ahead, Paul.
Go down into Westport tonight.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And you'll see, go to Kelly's in Westport, and you will see a chock full of Cyclone fans there.
No doubt about it. No, but it's because there's beer, right? Is that what you're saying? Beer and barbecue. Eugene, I just noticed, did you cover Villanova, or did you go to Villanova? Is that on your byline on Twitter?
Yeah, it was, yes, I went to Villanova, and I covered Villanova as well, and other schools in the Big East for probably about 8 to 9 total years before I got here. I'm familiar with the Big East tournament. I'm familiar with NCAAs and the Big 12, but this is my first time being at the Big 12 tournament.
I like what they do. I do. I love the fact that they do a good job there, and the fact you're from covering Villanova, went to Villanova. You understand basketball. My God, it's a great program, of course, that they've had over the years. Thanks for your time, man. Enjoy. Well, let me ask you this, and I don't know if you saw the quote. Did you see the quote a couple of nights ago from Jamie Pollard about Arizona State getting that subsidy that allowed them to balance their budget in athletics? And Jamie kind of said, this is kind of like the uphill battle we faced. Did you see that by any chance?
I personally did not. I'm going to have to look into it. My thing is that might be a little too above my pay grade, but now I'm curious. You got me curious.
Well, we asked Travis Hines, but we had Jamie on a couple of weeks ago. It was just the fact that these schools like Iowa State or whoever, if I say the wrong school, then people, I know. But it's a dog-eat-dog world, man. You got to find the way to scratch and claw to get the money. And what happened is Arizona State's university ended up, I think it was like $30-something million that they gave to the athletic department, ended up being a $51 million subsidy to balance their budget because they were in debt in athletics badly. And so was the school. And it was just another way for them to have a chance to even it out, move forward, have money that otherwise you weren't going to have. And that's the whole deal right now in college athletics.
Yeah, it seems like whatever way you can get the money to work, or any way you can get that nickel and dime, just build money up in this day and age. It's like you'll take it, I guess.
Enjoy it. Thank you. Enjoy Kansas City. Eugene Repay from the Des Moines Register covering Iowa State. They win by 20 today. And, yeah, there was a couple of times it was dicey because of Lipsy going down, and he's had injury before. But they move on. They will play BYU, who's red hot. And then, of course, that's the upper part of the bracket. And Houston's lingering there, too, along with, how about this, Colorado, 54-49, West Virginia. Colorado leads by 5 with 3 minutes to go as they try to put a little bit of a run towards putting on some sort of a pink, a slipper, because they're 13 and 19.
Slipper.
A glass one. No, it's pink.
It's a glass slipper.
Women's
it
month.
Might have been like tinted pink. I don't know, but it's glass slipper.
That's one of those that I always,
Yeah.
I didn't watch a lot of that when I was growing up. I was told I couldn't watch cartoons.
What did you watch? Because I feel like there's not a list that we've ever heard of thing that you actually have watched on.
I did watch Snow White.
Okay.
She was kind of cute too, you know.
Yeah,
Snow
well,
White.
they're all, there's not
For a 1940s cartoon character, she's super hot.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, they're all.
I mean, I watched that. I don't know if I ever watched Beauty and the Beast, but I mean, I did kind of maybe.
I mean, Cinderella and the Glass Slipper is pretty you don't have to know the whole story to know that's part of it.
It wasn't a pink glass slipper?
No. Here's the thing.
Glass is clear.
Yeah. My wife knows nothing about, superhero movies or anything like that, but she knows who Clark Kent is. She knows that that's Superman because everybody knows that. Just like everybody knows it's Glass Slipper with Cinderella.
Yeah,
whether they've seen it or not.
Or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know if I ever watched a ballerina movie. Not sure if I did or not. But
I don't know if I have either, but I still.
Colorado is trying to put on a Big 12 glass, what is it called? Slipper.
Glass slipper.
And right now they're giving West Virginia all they can handle. Timeout with 3:09 left. They're up by 5, but still time left in that one. The winner of that game will get Kelvin Sampson and the Big 12 regular season champion Houston Cougars.
We'll smash that slipper over their heads if they even do get it and make them like it. Most likely, that is.
Oh, my God. When we come back, 365 Sports, the 4 o'clock hour, John Cooper, a couple of weeks after the NFL Combine, his thoughts about a name or two that have popped up on the radar or those who have slipped, speaking of slippers, and this is 365 Sports. The Baylor Club, specials throughout the week. And, of course, you have some special opportunities coming up. They have, for example, Club Eats to Go. Meals that feed families of 6, including round Italian bread loaf and your choice of tossed salad with ranch or balsamic vinaigrette or Caesar salad. That's coming up on Thursday. Partially cooked, and they come refrigerated. Products must reach, of course, a certain temperature before you eat it. But Club Eats to Go, there's a menu. Go to Facebook with Baylor Club, and there's much, much more. Dinner features tonight, St. Louis pork ribs, shrimp and catfish basket, fried shrimp and catfish basket tomorrow night. Always that go-to of steak and lobster on Friday, and prime rib. Just absolutely delicious. You watch the chef right there, cut it in front of you as you're going down the line, and man, that gorgeous look of a prime rib. They have $3 draft beer, $4 house and liquor drinks, $5 house wine, and $6 house cocktails. April showers coming up. They have different type of drinks. April showers is a Western Sun blueberry vodka, blue Caraco, and also lemon juice, starry garnish with a lemon wedge, and blueberries for you to think about when the month of April hits. But they have great food. Also, a great place, St. Patrick's Brunch, that's coming up on March the 16th, which, of course, is just around the corner. It's spring break. The stadium tours are going on now. If you've not been inside the Baylor Club, inside McLean Stadium, Mike Molso, the general manager, Baylor Club, inside McLean Stadium off I-35 and the Brazos River in Waco.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Don's Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. Don's Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Ready to take your business to the next level? Carrion Solutions has got you covered. We deliver world-class IT consulting, including Quest On Demand and Migration Manager, M365 and Exchange migrations, Active Directory assessments, security hardening, and Windows Server upgrades. Our experts specialize in consulting, monitoring, support, and managed IT services. We promise vision, professionalism, and unbeatable value. Satisfaction guaranteed. If you're not happy, we make it right. Remember the name Carrion Solutions. For more info, email sales@carrionsolutions.com or visit carrionsolutions.com. That's CARRION solutions.com. Carrion Solutions IT success guaranteed.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
365 Sports, this 4 o'clock hour will be crowded with John Cooper, Chris Crutchfield, University of Omaha basketball coach. They're in the tournament. And Nikki Colin, Baylor women's coach, joining us at 4:45 or so. John Cooper, Our Lad's Guide to the NFL Draft. He joins us now. There he is on the screen. And, John, thank you for your time. Have any of the free agency signings or any of the trades, the flurry in the last 2 to 4 days, affected anything near the top of the draft, in your opinion? We got him?
John, you there?
I can't hear you, Andrew.
I can kind of hear him.
Yeah, I can hear him in the background. Let's try to see it again. Put him back up, if you, Andrew. Are you there, John?
I can't hear.
Oh, okay.
I can't hear you.
There you go. We can hear you. Okay. Well, let's try to reconnect with him. Let's do that again, Andrew.
Yeah.
Go ahead and disconnect and reconnect Paul and Andrew, and we'll get John Cooper back on the show with us to see if any of the trades or the free agent signings, which was a flurry, of course, over over the weekend into yesterday as well, have affected anything near the top of the draft. I would think not, but you just never know.
I would say that, my thing, Evan Ingram just signed with the Broncos. So if you're the Broncos and you signed Evan Ingram to a 2-year, $23 million deal, you may, unless Tyler Warren falls to you at that pick, you may wait on tight end until later, right? Someone who you don't need to start right away because you've got a starter. But at the top, what quarterback signing would have changed anything?
Nothing.
The Browns are going to try and sign Russell Wilson or something. They've traded for Kenny Pickett, but nothing that they do is going to change what's going to happen long term with that team. Is that they either draft a quarterback this year or they don't. And if they don't do it this year, they're probably going to have to do it next year because they're just going to have to clean out that room. That's just how it goes. So nothing. Nothing yet, Andrew? Okay. All right. Well, just give us the.
We'll try to continue to get John Cooper. If you're in the chat, your thoughts about anything, you have a question for us when it comes to the NFL draft, we'd like to help you with that if we can while we tread water here and try to get John Cooper locked in with us so he can hear us.
So Craig Tank Lawrence has a new home?
Yeah, I just saw that come across the wire here from Tom Pelissero. DeMarcus Lawrence, former Cowboys defensive end, signing a 3-year deal with the Seattle Seahawks. According to his agents, he'll get $18 million guaranteed on a $42 million deal over 3 years. So there you go, Tank Lawrence to Seattle, who seems to be one of the more active teams here early on in free agency and just the general market. It feels like I've seen Seattle's name quite a bit, but that had a lot to do also with the quarterback shuffling that was going on with Geno leaving and then obviously bringing in a new face there in Sam Darnold. So, yeah. Tank Lawrence, man, he flamed out fast in Dallas, didn't he? That went from big, huge contract, and 2 years later, it's like, see it, pal.
Foot injuries? Was that what always derailed him? Or
yeah.
Was it always the foot problems, or
he had the foot thing that got him. And look, he was one of the leaders of that team for a long time. I'm going to call John on the phone.
Okay,
he's having some problems, but yeah, that was the thing. And he's in the Cowboys Hall of Good, for the time he was there, but he was never healthy the last few years.
I have another Cowboys note, though. So Tank Lawrence is gone, but they are making a move. They are making a trade for Kenneth Murray Jr., linebacker from the Titans, as part of a late-round pick swap. So, former Sooner, Kenneth Murray Jr., and a pretty highly rated player coming out of Oklahoma, and then started off with the Chargers, but looks like he is on the move to Dallas. So once Paul gets everything else situated, we can discuss that move and other moves with our next guest.
Yeah,
but,
he wore a single digit at Oklahoma. I can't remember what number he was.
Number 9.
Number 9 at Oklahoma, was with Tennessee, as Craig mentioned, and now the Cowboys have added him with the pick late round. What was it, like 6th or 7th round picks or something? They split them?
Late round picks is all I saw.
Yeah.
So.
John Cooper joins us, Our Lad's Guide to the NFL Draft. John, thank you very much for your time. Sorry about that issue with the audio. Anything that's happened since the weekend, the flurry of trades and or free agency that could affect the top of the draft? And I'm not saying the number 1 pick, but anything that's up in the top 5 to 10?
Yeah, I think, it's hard to digest all this stuff. It happens so fast. We're sitting here working on, on players and things like that. But I think, nothing necessarily major that way. But, I think you're I don't think what, Cleveland did is going to affect their need for a quarterback necessarily. I don't think what happened. I don't see anything right now that for sure is going to do that. With the Bears going down them, I think their need for an offensive lineman, their interior, might have lessened quite a bit with what they did. But, it's hard to tell just how teams are going to view that. I mean, there are a lot of best player available is what you're going to see with the top of the draft. There's lots of good players there.
Are the Bears, because they've now solidified that interior of the offensive line, they drafted Darnell Wright just 2 years ago, so he's going to be the right tackle. I assume Braxton Jones is the left tackle right now, unless they decide to do that. But are they the team you see that could maybe be the first one to pick off Ashton Genty? Because if they do that, then that gives them, a really solid rookie runner for Ben Johnson, who loves to run the ball.
I don't think he'll get past the Bears. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
Because I think that's what what I see right now. I'm looking at all the guys they signed. They fixed a lot of things that were weaknesses if these players perform. Not all those guys were elite players last year, but if you look at their offensive line, the 3 guys they got are better than what they had or how they performed anyway last year.
So people are going to have to trade up and get him if they're worried about it.
Yeah, right. Then the Bears might be the ones that have to trade up and get them.
Okay.
So, John, on that subject of running backs, it's pretty clear Ashton Genty's like that guy when it comes to the position. And then there's a lot of names that have been mentioned. Is there like a second group of a few guys, or maybe even less than a few guys, that separates itself from the rest of that pack? A second tier, if you will, in your eyes, of that running back class?
Yeah, I think there's 3, maybe 4 guys that are in that second tier. Omarion Hampton from North Carolina, Travion Henderson, and Quinshon Judkins from Ohio State. Both of those guys, and possibly Caleb Johnson from Iowa, could be in that category of that second tier.
Where do you put Cam Scattaboo?
He's be the next guy. He would be in fact, I was almost stuck him in there, but I was thinking that these are guys that would be higher second-round picks. Scatterbo maybe a little bit less than that, but he would be right there.
John Cooper with us, Our Lad's Guide to the NFL Draft on 365 Sports. You mentioned Hampton. You mentioned obviously Judkins. What about Henderson at Ohio State? Where is he in that kind of that clump?
Well, yeah, I think I mentioned him too. If I didn't, I was remiss. But he would be second or third. We go back and forth as to who we like better, Hampton or Henderson. I like Henderson's speed. I think his outside ability is fantastic. He can be a game breaker, on a toss or a throw in the flat. You give him a little room, he's got a chance to hit a home run. And so not real big, 202 pounds, but fast and got agility in traffic. And those are things you don't teach.
There is some scuttlebutt now, and this is draft season, so as you know, nothing's true at all. But they have some teams that are saying that that Shedeur Sanders is not in the first round on their board, or that he could fall out. Do you think that is maybe subterfuge from some of the teams that are trying to make sure that he is there for them to draft? Because there's only 2 guys that are first-round worthy by most metrics.
Yeah, I think that I don't know what the case is. And every board is different. I know that you talk to some teams, if they don't have the need, the player's not on their board. Their board didn't even set with that guy. So they're going to draft him no matter what, figuring he's going to be gone. So that could be some of those people talking. But, the teams that need quarterbacks, he's going to be on their board. And whether it's in the first round or whether it's in the second round, he's going to be on their board. And people don't look at it necessarily as first round, second round. They look at tiers of players. So if the first tier has Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, the question is, where does that tier fit for you? If you're maybe your top 10 pick or even first or second round pick, and you need a quarterback, they would probably be in that tier. But if they're not, then you're going to have to look at the next tier of quarterbacks.
I think I've slowly kind of whittled away asking you about most of the Big 12 prospects, but a couple guys I'm not sure if we talked about or not in the wide receiver group. Savion Williams out of TCU, who did a lot of Wildcat last year, and then Kobe Hudson out of UCF. I was wondering if you had thoughts on either one of those 2 prospects.
Well, the Savion Williams is a nice, a really nice receiver that I'm familiar with. We've looked at him a lot, and, we like the speed. There's some things he doesn't do well, as acceleration, deceleration isn't the best, but he can run. He's a big receiver that, can catch the deep ball for you, and he can be a really nice X receiver. We really like him, as far as that goes. I haven't looked at the kid from UCF much. Our other guy has seen him more than I have, so I can't really comment that much on him as far as how high or how, where we think he would go.
Where is Savion Williams compared to how San Francisco and Washington hope to use Deebo Samuel?
I don't think he's quite that type of player. I know he's done some Wildcat stuff, but he has speed, and he could do some of that. But you don't see too many 6'4", running back type guys. But
sure.
But that said, he's got the speed, to do that. So, but I think people are going to look at him as, as that deep threat that can play outside, and be a factor that way.
Somebody on the chat, some fans, of course, of college football, certain teams, DJ Giddens at Kansas State, who at times flashed and looked really good, and at times it was just okay. You not know much or want to say much about him?
He's a little bit down the line for us, in terms of how these guys are ranked. But, he definitely has tools. He definitely has some skills. I mean, these are all good football players. I mean, they can play. And it's just a matter of, now we start getting into the metrics. What do they do? What's their acceleration rate, deceleration rate? All these things come into play, and those are the separators, and we have access to some of that, but we don't study it like NFL scouts do.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going to be a little bit down the line. I'm going to, meet with our guy that does metrics Friday for some last minute stuff. So that's going to be something, I'm going to ask him about some of these guys.
Have you gotten to watch Jalen Conyers from Texas Tech much? He's very athletic. He seems like he could maybe be a guy that you could do some things with, and further down the line of the draft, but kind of an intriguing prospect at tight end.
Yeah, he's okay. I mean, this is a good year. This is a good class for tight ends, and he's a good receiver, and he definitely is in the mix for us as somebody that. Where he's going to get drafted, probably not real high, but he is a solid football player. I think he's a second-day pick. Could be a second-day pick.
Wow. He does seem to fit a lot of the parts in the tight end class, as you mentioned, starting with Penn State and Warren. Caleb Rogers, offensive lineman from Texas Tech. And I know, John, there are hundreds of names out there, but we're getting some questions on our chat room, so I wanted to fire that away to you, an offensive lineman from Texas Tech.
Caleb Rogers, 6'4", 6'5", 312 pounds. He's got good size. The little bit of the knock, his wingspan differential is okay. It's, a little bit below average, so that's going to be something people are going to look at. As far as playing tackler is concerned, I think he might be a candidate to move inside. He's a solid player. He's on our board. And, maybe second, third day type guy. It's not a great year for offensive tackles and offensive linemen in general, to be very honest. It's more of a defensive line, edge rusher draft. All you got to do is take a look at the number of guards, tackles, and centers that got to the combine versus the number of edge rushers and defensive tackles. 40 tackles. So that's where the draft is really, really strong.
John, next week the Big 12 will have their multi-day combine for all the players, or a lot of the players that didn't get invited to the regular NFL combine. I was just curious, do you see much value in that? I mean, is that something that you guys will pay attention to? And just what are your thoughts on a conference kind of saying, hey, we don't have enough spotlight for some guys, we're going to put them out there together and see what we can get for them in terms of some of that spotlight?
I think it's a great idea. I really like it because, for some reason guys don't work at the combine. And every year it seems like for a while there, when the first thing went on TV, everybody wanted to work out. They wanted to be out. Now all of a sudden they're saying, no, I don't think so. I'd rather work out at my school. I'd rather work out in a more comfort zone. I'd rather have a little bit more time to prepare. So you're seeing a lot of guys that, aren't working out. Now they got an opportunity to work out at a pro day. And I think it's a good idea. I just wish they would do these things a little earlier because, we're getting towards April. Some of these pro days are going in. So I think they ought to all be, in March. I think there ought to be, if I was going to put a rule in, is every one of them's got to be done by the 25th of March. And I'd have the combine a little earlier too. But that's just, preparing for the draft's not easy.
John, do you think that there is a diamond in the rough in the mid-round quarterbacks in the Riley Leonard, Dylan Gabriel, Tyler Shuck kind of group? Yeah, I think so. I think any one of those guys that you mentioned could be, in that mode. Curtis Rourke is a guy that's not real mobile, but he's an accurate passer from Indiana. Riley Leonard is a great athlete. I really like what he does. We're hot and cold on Jalen Milroe. We haven't kind of decided yet. I think we're starting to think that, hey, you know what? With his athleticism, let's work with him. Let's develop him. There's some obviously flaws in the way he throws the football, but he might go a little higher than people expect. But Max Brosmer from Minnesota and Kyle McCord from Syracuse all fit that mold. They're guys that have redeeming qualities. They do some things well. We get them in the building. Let's see what we can do. Let's see if we can bring out some things in them, in terms of consistent accuracy and whatnot. If they don't have mobility, that's a problem. And that's, I think, one of the things that Shadur Sanders is finding, that he may drop a little bit because of that. But, boy, he's an accurate passer.
John, late last week, there's a young man from Commerce, East Texas A&M. It's in Commerce, Texas, just a little bit an hour or so east of Dallas. His name's a cornerback, and this is off the wall here. His name is Kendall Paul, and he ran a 4.27 at the pro day, and all of a sudden there's people who at least are starting to get to know him. He didn't even have anyone who was going to represent him until about October, which in this day and age, you have people representing you when you're in high school. But he ran a 4.27. He's not big. He's a corner. He's physical, but yet he doesn't have a lot of size. Have you heard much about him at all? Do you hear about that?
I just got the name, and so no. I don't. We've got a list of players.
Oh, yeah.
And he's not on our list. So, in fact, I just picked up another one today from a Division II school in Michigan that's not on our list, an off-the-ball linebacker. So, and this happened to us. This happens every year. We pick up these names late, and now we got to scramble and try to get some film. And now, what level is this school? Is it NAIA?
It's. I believe it's NCAA. It might be an FCS or Division II.
Okay.
It's a school. It used to be. Remember Wade Wilson, the quarterback?
Yes.
Yeah, he came. It was East Texas State University, and now a lot of these bigger schools are starting to take over campuses. So it's East Texas A&M in Commerce, Texas. Kendall Paul, but I forgot who. I saw it on Twitter. I contacted the school. They gave me his agent's name, and he gave me the number. We had Kendall on earlier this week, but it's at least an intriguing story that at least now people know just because of that flat-out great 40 time.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if he runs a 40 like that, they're going to take a good look at him. Now, I'm going to tell you a story because we had a kid like that from Illinois where we're at, and it was a kid that a guy had played for me, was his high school coach, and he was playing at a school called Dubuque. His name was Hughes. And he went to the Senior Bowl. He invited him to the Senior Bowl out of Dubuque University in Iowa. And I actually called the school and, wanted to talk to my old player from years past, and he didn't even start at the high school he went to. He didn't play. He went and walked on at Division III school, and all of a sudden became a player. And he never really made it in the NFL, but he was around on practice squads and whatnot. And so there's some crazy stories like that. So nothing surprises me after that.
I know that you don't. I just sent you his agent's number. I just text that number to you. Just
appreciate
in case,
it.
I thought, you never know, right? He may have just been fast that day. Great personality, great kid. And so I just sent you the number to his agent. We appreciate it, John. Counting down week by week. Next thing you know, it's going to be the draft, and then you start working on 26. Or maybe you already are, knowing you. We appreciate your time. No. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it. Thank you.
You bet. Thanks.
John Cooper with us on most Wednesdays at 4 o'clock in the 4 o'clock hour on the NFL Draft from Our Last Guide.
All right, to clean up some of the Cowboys have made a couple moves. They traded for Kaiir Elam, who's a first-round bust from the Bills. They love the first-round busts. Love them. To fill a cornerback spot. So that's a thing. They signed a linebacker from the Bears, Jack Sanborn, who played for Matt Eberflus. So they need a linebacker that's good. And then Kenneth Murray, what I'm seeing is all the Titans beat writers, and this is thanks to our friend Shireen Williams, who was with us last week, said that they're amazed that they got anything for Kenneth Murray at all, even a late-round pick swap. So,
wow.
Yeah, but the Cowboys always believe that they can coach him up. But they have two first-round busts, Peyton Turner and now Kaiir Elam in the fold.
Have a brother that was in the league or a relative?
Matt Elam. Yeah,
no,
Matt Elam. Yeah.
No, I thought it was Abram Elam. I thought it was
maybe one of those.
Yeah.
So, but Kaiir Elam is on his way to the Cowboys, and look, that's a position of need.
Hey, you guys wanted them to get active.
Yeah, I mean, all this is formulaic. It's all the same thing. Nobody's going to be there that long. I mean, it's fine. They're like, you needed linebackers, so Kenneth Murray and Sanborn has started in the NFL, so that's good. They have NFL starters on their roster at linebacker. And
high picks, draft picks, first rounders.
Yeah, Kenneth Murray wasn't in the first round, but they've got guys who have played.
DeMarcus Lawrence, though, what Craig brought up, I mean, he just flat out disappeared. And when I heard that a couple of days ago that he was not signed, I thought he had he had that huge contract, but man, that's
Kenneth Murray,
a hell of a player.
Yeah, Kenneth Murray was a first-round pick.
Oh, he was? I thought he was in the second round.
Yeah, no, he was a first round. He was like top 25.
Okay.
Wow.
So,
see?
First-round busts all across the board.
Well, first-round busts that can sometimes just have gotten overwhelmed by the league.
Another man's trash is one man's treasure.
Yeah,
exactly.
I guess it's maybe the way you, not to call them trash, but.
Would you be like Jerry Jones shops like everyone else?
I'm sorry, Paul. We can't relate. Sorry to your struggles over here with your
this
franchise.
This is a guy who, if you're like, okay, you've got a chance, you can go buy Gucci and all this stuff, and he's like, he can afford Gucci. He can buy all. He could buy Gucci. He could buy Gucci.
Yeah,
if he wanted to. And he's like, you know what? Have you guys been to Target? They've got great.
Hey, you know what? Damn you! I shopped there.
I know. Hey, I'm not knocking you, but have you Target is he doesn't need to shop at Target. He can do some of these things, and they're trading low draft picks. It's fine.
You know why he has millions and billions of dollars is because he
shops at Target.
He does not overspend.
Yeah.
Well, he has on some picks, but on some contracts.
So obviously, I got to jab at Paul when the Commanders are actually good because. I haven't been able to do that ever before on this show, not even a single time.
No.
Wasn't around when RG3 was great for a year, so wasn't able to do it then. Commanders, though, did make a move. They're bringing Mariota back for a 1 year
I like that.
stint.
I like him as insurance, yeah.
So long as they don't try to put him in a short yardage situation and force him through to failure. But, no, I thought he was a good little backup for Jaden Daniels, a couple Heisman Trophy winners in that Washington quarterback room. So I thought he was a great mentor-type guy. And then when they needed him to play a little bit, he did okay. So I think he's somebody that they trust, and that's a good move. But, I got to jab Paul a little bit because for years it was – look, and Washington had their years of signing Dan Wilkinson and any other number of just bust free agents. Thankfully, that was – a long time ago, but it'll happen again. But right now, I got to take advantage of when they're actually worth talking about.
Craig, that year that you were not here, where RG3's rookie year, I got to experience the most awkward day of my life on Thanksgiving when Smokey and I went up there for that game. RG3.
He lit up the Cowboys.
I was at that game, actually. Yeah.
Lit up the Cowboys. Kenny Chesney played at halftime, who I absolutely despise.
You adore him.
And you can't. And I can't go it's not like you can go anywhere and not hear him. He's in the, if I'm in a restaurant in Kenny Chesney, I can walk outside until the song's over. I'm in AT&T Stadium, so I've got to listen to him play a whole friggin' set. Then after that game happens, I've got to go downstairs and talk to the guy who just shoved knives into my team. It was a push of my professionalism. Yeah. Tony, it was a push.
Our good buddy Tony Wiley, we saw him at the Super Bowl. Great guy, set us up quite a bit with him. When we come back, we continue on. Chris Crutchfield, he's the head coach at University of Omaha, one of the great stories in college basketball. I've known him for 20-something years. He's next. Nikki Colin around the corner, then Joseph Duarte on Houston, and this is 365 Sports. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, they have 18 tennis courts. They have an 1,100-seat stadium court. They have tournaments going on their tennis all of the time. They have pickleball, and that's red hot too. But they just resurfaced a lot of those courts, and that's a process that takes time. It's beautiful. The money they put into it, the tennis academy, the tennis courts, the tennis pros led by Britt Coleman, among others. Kenna is there as well. Britt does the youth tennis lessons, and then Kenna does a lot when it comes to adult tennis. Britt's been around a long, long time. They have tournaments galore, from national tournaments to national college tournaments to even the tournaments and lessons you get if you just want to go play tennis at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco. So we're now into the early part of March, and how many of you, as the year ended or this year began, said, I'm going to get myself in shape, I'm going to get fit, I'm going to lose some inches, I'm going to lose some pounds, and now here we are, the first week in March, and did you do that? Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco, personal trainers to help you reach your goals, and they know how to do that. Randall Corley, Christy London, Robin Nelson, Nathan Roach, and Lori Hull are there to help you. To get rid of that little extra that you have around your waist, or to just get fit. Cardio, strength, fitness. Why not now? Don't wait until, I'm going to get ready for the summer. Do that now so you can relax and enjoy the summer if you go to the beach, swimming pool, or just stay in shape or get in shape. Also, Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness has a bunch of tennis courts, including an 1,100-seat stadium court. They are resurfacing some of the tennis courts. Some of them are done. Some of them are being resurfaced now. And it is spectacular. Britt Coleman, Dixon, John, Holt, Clay, and Kenna all can help you out. And then Rachel Carter, director of pickleball, because pickleball is exploding, and they are ready for you with pickleball private lessons from Peter, Dixon, and also Jody. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, pickleball, and more. Do it by yourself, do it with personal trainers, but do it. Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Alan Samuels House of Travel is a full-service travel agency with highly experienced travel consultants plus support staff with over a combined 150 years in the travel business. They are ready to take care of any travel situation for you, your family, and your business, and with the kind of knowledge to complete a seamless itinerary trip start to finish. They will search for the best deal to accommodate your budget from air to cars, ship to shore, hotel, and even meeting space. Name a destination and they've been there. They know the places to go, and international and missionary travel is one of their unique specialties. Alan Samuels House of Travel, celebrating 50 years in business. Call Connie, Sherry, Linda, or Bambi at 254-776-2560 or find them on Facebook or at houseoftravelwaco.com. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Nikki Group Insurance Agency. With the Nikki Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Nikki Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Nikki Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at AllianceBankTexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Want to send a message to the show? Jump in the Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue chat room.
What makes college basketball great is there are 350 or so schools that have a chance to win the championship. It's wide open. And then you have the regular season, then you have the conference tournaments, and sometimes if you're in a certain conference, you have to validate what you did during the regular season. Omaha had to do that, and they're headed to the tournament for the first time ever. And a good friend of mine, Chris Crutchfield, the head coach, joins us on 365 Sports. And there, is he there? Do we have him? Let's try. All right, we got to get the video up. Chris Crutchfield will join us in just a moment. There's kind of a lineage in the tournament with Tyler Junior College, where I went to school, and Kyle Keller with what he's done when he was at SFA. I know that this year didn't end well with him, and the Jacks weren't very good. Scott Cross, who played there, took UT Arlington to the tournament. Now he's taking Troy to the tournament. And so we'll try to reestablish with Coach Crutchfield here in just a moment. Did we have no video link?
Yeah, he was there. He just dropped out.
Okay, let's see if we'll try to see if we can get that reestablished here in just a moment. Coach Crutchfield, he was at Omaha. Early on in his career, he played there at Omaha, and now he's coaching at his alma mater. And he has been at Oklahoma, Oral Roberts, TCU, among others, UTSA, and the Mavs are on their way to the NCAA tournament. Oh, we never did update the final. Colorado has knocked out West Virginia. Colorado will now play Houston in the next round. And does that affect the Big 12 with now one team that's not in when they were supposed to have West Virginia was right there on the edge? Got to wonder about that. We're now reestablished with Chris Crutchfield, the head coach, University of Omaha. There he is, our great friend. Chris, Craig Smoak is with me, Paul Catalina. Thank you very much for your time. What is it like right now, and what's it been like for you to go back there and have this kind of success, and this year you're going dancing?
There you go, David. I got you now, buddy. How you doing?
We're doing great, man. We're doing great, Crutch. Good to see you, man.
Good to see you.
What does this mean to you to go back to Omaha and have this success, and for the first time ever, they're headed to the tournament?
Well, it means a lot just because I went to school here.
Yep.
It's my school, and you know, when you wear the jersey, you got the extra pride, and you always got the former players and all the alumni that's so excited about it, and it's different. And I've been to a bunch of tournaments and Final Fours and Elite Eights and Sweet 16s, but this one is really, really special because it's on me, and I actually put it all together, and I'm so excited. And the people in Omaha have been waiting on this opportunity for so long since we've been Division I. So I'm just so happy that I could do it and be an alumni.
When did you feel like this team had come together and could go on this kind of run? Because you guys really did roll through the conference pretty well.
You know, we had a really bad non-conference schedule, and we got off to a slow start. A bunch of road games. At one time, we was 4-9, and I think the thing that separated us, we got up to a road trip to North Dakota State, which that's our toughest trip. And we got up there and was able to pull out both games on the road. And we had a kid in the last game against North Dakota State. We had a young man hit 5 threes in 90 seconds.
Whew.
And it popped the game open. We was down maybe 7. He hits 5 threes. Next thing you know, we're up 4 or 5, and pretty much the game was over. We knocked them out. And I think our team just blew up with confidence after that. And that changed the whole deal. Then we won, I think we won 7 to 8 games in a row in the conference.
First time ever. I can't even imagine financially what it means to the athletic department. That's a big deal. But just the attention, Chris, what it means to the program to have this kind of attention over the next few days.
Well, it's big. It's big just because of, you've never been before. And now we're in the city of Omaha, which is 1.2 million people. And it's great for our city. I mean, we got Creighton here, and Creighton has been a continued team that's been in the tournament for a long time. Now we have 2 teams in the city that's going, and the city is excited. You know, we got over 100,000 alum in this city that are so excited and are fired up, and they're all buying their tickets for the game, not even knowing where we're going to be and what time it's going to be or who we're going to play, but they're all excited about getting tickets. So it's a fun time here in Omaha.
You guys, the having the watch party and all those things too is an experience for you, and especially how different is it in this era of college basketball where it is more itinerant, where guys aren't necessarily with your program for 4 years or haven't built it, but have come in to create something special this year?
Well, we've been pretty lucky because we got 4 guys that I call them my day one guys. They've been here from day one since we got the job. We brought in these guys, and they stayed. They stayed the courts, followed the plan, believed in the vision that we had for them, and this is the reason why we've had success. Just because we've been able to keep a core group of guys together. And they're older, more experienced. They took their lumps 2 years ago when we wasn't very good, only won 9 games. Last year we won 15 games. They kind of took their lumps then, and they all came back and got better and developed and gained confidence. And that's what separates us from everybody else in our league. We just older, more mature, and we have some guys that really, really worked hard and wanted it.
You have been at some basketball schools. The history either recently or for a while at New Mexico State. Oral Roberts, OU with Lon Kruger was there for the long time. Arkansas, you were at Oregon before you went to your alma mater to start coaching. Who taught? And obviously, I saw you when you were at Tyler with Kyle Keller, who took SFA to the tournament one year and beat Duke at Cameron Indoor. And I know this year didn't go well for him. But your thoughts about what you learned, what was it like, and how you pick and choose what you learned from some of these great coaches?
To be honest with you, David, man, I took a lot from everybody, man. I got some notebooks down here in my office, man. I'm telling you, I go back and look at them. You know, I've been blessed to be around so many really, really brilliant coaches, not just X's and O guys, but guys under that love their players, that understood how to deal with players to get them to do what they wanted them to do. Guys that knew how to bring a team together, and I credit all those guys because I mean, I thought Lou Henson was the best ever. And then I got, around Scott Sutton. I realized how good Scott was, the youngest son of Eddie Sutton, how good he was. Then I got blessed enough to go to Oklahoma and be around Lon Kruger, who I think is probably one of the best basketball minds ever to coach basketball. Then I spent some time with Eric Musselman, and I thought he was the most organized, strategic guy that had a plan for everything that happened in the basketball program. And then, of course, I spent a year with Dana Altman. Man, I mean, I'm telling you, I've been blessed. But I've taken something from each one of those guys, David, and I use it every day in our practices. It helps me when I deal with my team, when we have issues, when we got problems. I've learned how to deal with the media because I watched Lon do it for over 8 years and go to the Final Four and go to Sweet 16s and be Coach of the Year. So I've been blessed to learn a lot of different things, how to do this, how the blueprint of how to build a program, to be honest with you.
What is the attention like and trying to juggle your schedule? There's a break now, but you're going to be, next thing you know, locked into somewhere. What's that been like, the interviews, et cetera?
Oh, it's been a lot. It's 3 or 4 or 5 a day, and sorry you had to go through that process to get me, man. When I got your text, I just normally push the button and tell a person what time we'll do it, and we'll do it. And now there's a process to that just because they're trying to make sure they're prioritizing my time a little bit better. But I'm definitely going to do this one. I'm going to tell you that right now.
What do you do well? You mentioned that surge of threes back when you guys were trying to turn the corner. What is it that you do that's a problem for your opponents, and what are things that you have to be careful you don't fall into?
I think, David, what we've been really good at is really, like, we have a long athletic basketball team. Our wings are 6'5" and 6'8", and I mean they're long, agile. We got a 4-man that's 6'9", who was the Player of the Year, Markel Sutton, in our league, and we've been able to switch 1 through 4. We got a 5-man that's 6'9", 275 pounds. No one can move him around the basket, and we want to be a really, really good defensive team. And I kind of copied what we wanted to do really off of Kelvin Sampson. I love Kelvin Sampson to death. I think he's one of the best defensive coaches in the country. And we try to imitate that as best we could at the mid-major level. And we gotten close to doing it. But I like the way he plays, so we try to imitate that. I think our defense, we're more athletic than anybody else in our league, and that helped us defensively. And we like to get out in transition and shoot a bunch of threes. We got a bunch of shooters, and we play fast. We play up tempo, and I've always liked playing that way. And we finally got the pieces this year to be able to do that.
When was the last time you had a chance to talk to Kelvin Sampson? Have you had a? I mean, you've gone against teams like that and what you've been in your career. Have you had a chance to actually pick his brain or talk to him?
Oh, yeah. Every time I see him in a gym somewhere on the recruiting trail, I talk to him. Matter of fact, last year at the Final Four, I think we was in Phoenix. Phoenix. We sat at a table and almost had lunch right next to each other and talked basketball.
He's got a hell of a run right now. They lost to Baylor in 21 in the tournament up in Indianapolis. Mm-hmm. They've been knocking on the door just from a guy that understands basketball like you do. To go into the Big 12, they were good, really good, like Final Four good. But to go into the Big 12 and then win it back-to-back years and this year go 19-1, how stupid is that?
It's unbelievable what he's been able to do. And to be honest with you, David, he hadn't had the most talent on his team. And it's unbelievable what he's been able to do in that league. And that league is really hard. That league is tough. That league is physical. To be able to come back to back and do what he's done. I think he was coach of the year last year. He's coach of the year this year. And he won the league outright and probably going to win the conference tournament just because of they do defend every single possession.
When Kyle Keller called you to come to Tyler Junior College, you were at UTSA. What was the pitch, and did you realize in a couple of years after that you'd be the head coach at Tyler Junior College?
I had no idea that was going to happen, and the pitch was because at that time, David, that position I was in at UTSA was restricted earnings, so you was basically the operation guy in modern day basketball, and you didn't have a chance to go on the road recruiting. So as a young coach, Kyle's selling point was, Crutch, you get a chance to go on the road. You get a chance to go recruiting. You get a chance to go meet people. You need to be out meeting people as a young coach. You got to get recruiting experience if you wanted to do this at a high level. So that was an easy sell for me. I jumped in the car, threw everything in the U-Haul, and we drove up from San Antonio to Tyler and found an apartment in one day and bought furniture the next day. And we was running. It was on running. Then all of a sudden, 2 years later, Kyle gets the opportunity to go to Oklahoma State with Coach Sutton.
Mm-hmm.
And, John Peterson walked in the office and asked me, did I want to be the head coach? I said, yes. He said, well, there's a process to go through this. I'm not sure how long it's going to take. But within about 48 hours, Dr. Crow called me to his office and said, you want to be the head coach? I said, yes. He said, well, how long will it take you to get home and get a suit on? We're on the press conference at 2:00.
Wow.
And by that time, it was noon. and that's how it happened. That's how it happened for real.
And I bet you were on our radio show back then.
I sure
that
was.
day you were. I'm thrilled for you, what you've done. And to get to go back to the alma mater, sometimes that's wonderful, and sometimes that can be even stressful. Has it, obviously with what you're doing now, it has been wonderful. Has it been that since the first day you got the opportunity?
No doubt. It's been wonderful. The reception I got when I got here, and I told people it's going to be a 3 to 4 year process to get this thing turned around. And I have a great athletic director. I have a chancellor that's all bought in. And the lady jumped out of a trash can for us with the trophy in her hand in our last home game. So we are aligned like crazy, and they couldn't be more excited for the opportunity that we have to get on the big stage to represent Omaha.
All right, last thing. You mentioned the celebration because you're going to the tournament. What do you do between now and whoever you play and whenever you play? Do you show a lot of, other teams that have gotten in the tournament for the first time and done some damage and been the Cinderella? Or you just go about, hey, we're good enough to be there, let's go win?
No, I think we'll start that process. We practice today, and we'll practice again tomorrow. We'll give them Friday off, but I think we'll start with little increments of videos from the history of the tournament, just to show them that there's a possibility, no matter what seed we get, if it's a 16, if it's a 15, if it's a 14, those teams have won games in this tournament. And I think just to give them some confidence that even though you're fighting the odds are not in your favor, but there's a chance that you can go in and upset somebody.
You and I have known each other a long, long time. Thrilled for you. 20-something years, in fact. And the fact that you've been able to have this success at Omaha where you played makes it even more special. We are adopting you as our team. We cover the Big 12, but we're adopting you, buddy. Good luck, Crutch. Thanks. Good to see you. Good to see you, my friend.
25 years, buddy. It's been 25 years, man.
It has been a long time. Chris Crutchfield, the head coach at the University of Nebraska, Omaha. And the Mavs are in the NCAA tournament. When we come back, is she on?
Let's go right to
We got her? Okay, good. We don't have to take a break. We're now joined by Baylor women's basketball coach Nikki Colin joins us with Paul Catalina, Craig, and David Smoak. Nikki, thanks for your time. It's been a few days since the game on Sunday, which was another dramatic game, just like the game at home. How have you handled the downtime? What do you let the legs rest, or you go right back to trying to find that edge for next week?
Yeah, I'm trying to get my voice back after 3 games in 3 days. So apologize. It's actually the first time I've lost it this season, but we definitely gave them 2 days off. Today was our first day back. Everybody needed it. I just think in general, but also like just it was not knowing who your opponent is and that stretch that we'd had finishing with a bunch of games in a row and then the Big 12 tournament. All of our players' bodies needed it. So, we'll go 3 days on, 1 day off again, and then, prepare for whoever we're preparing for, starting Sunday.
How close to completely full health will you be?
As close as we've been. We should have Bugs back in practice tomorrow. Tomorrow's her first day back. Certainly will be load managed and have return to play protocol starting tomorrow. But, we'll be back to having 10 in practice. Certainly, Van Geitenbeek and Gornova and Madison Bartley, like they've been out all season or most of the season. So, but we will be back to as healthy as we can get to finish out the season.
How do you describe the wear and tear, the attrition of not just the conference, but just the season itself? And you got to weather the storm, and you get somebody back, somebody else goes down.
Yeah, I think it's a unique challenge. Certainly, I think the crazy part about the sport right now is like we've never known more about the human body than we do. We've never known more about how to recovery and all the things that we can do to protect it. At the same time, I think the wear and tear of today's student athletes, even though we're not a program that practices 3 hours. I mean, we were in and out in an hour and a half on court today. And that's just, I don't always believe more is more, less can be more. And if we're getting in good work, but I just think, that it's always a challenge, like I was add injuries and then foul trouble and you're searching at times. I went to the double big lineup, which I haven't done since November against TCU, and it was really effective. But that, we had played a lot of small ball down the stretch, and that had been really good to us up until that game. And we just weren't accomplishing much with the small lineup against TCU. So yeah, I mean, you're just trying to manage bodies. You're trying to prepare the best you can and put your team in the best position to be successful with whomever is playing.
Do you know, although you don't know, that you're going to host in that first 2 rounds?
No, I don't know. I certainly feel like our numbers say we should, whether it's net, whether it's quad 1 wins, we have no bad losses. I mean, we don't have anything on our resume that says we don't belong. At the same time, like you don't know until you see it go up on the bracket. And because, we haven't been that mainstay team all season that's seen their name in a reveal. You do have those questions. I think Charlie Cream on our side gets a lot of things right, but he doesn't get everything right. So, I think our numbers are better than Ole Miss. I think they're better than Ohio State. Like, I think those other teams that are being considered as 4 seeds, I just think our numbers are all positioned to get us a couple home games.
You guys lost 4 conference games, and 3 of them were to TCU. And they're all very close. How do you take the frustration from those games that were all nail biters, especially the last 2? My God, but turn that into positivity, because those kind of things can kind of eat you up a little bit if you don't channel it in the right direction.
Yeah, both those losses definitely eat at me for sure. I think I replayed some of the late plays in the game. I think what some people don't really know about me is, like, I can replay a game almost possession by possession in my head without watching the film. And I wouldn't say I necessarily have a photographic memory, but it's very close. Like, I can tell you the play that beat us against Georgia when I was at Arkansas 14 years ago. Like I can still see it. I can feel that feeling. And so, I think the thing about that game, and in particular this last one, is TCU, no matter what the moment, they never broke. We turned them over 14 times in the first half. It just didn't impact them. Like, I don't think people understand what Haley Van List experienced at LSU a year ago, where there's memes about her and people berating her on the internet. That had to toughen that kid up. You know what I mean? Like, she was a media darling her whole career at Louisville, and goes to LSU and goes through that. And then goes and wins a gold medal in 3-on-3. Like, that kid's a pro. Like, she just doesn't get rattled. And we could trap her, and she turned it over some. Both games she turned it over. But she's going to pick her moment, and she's going to be ready for it. And when I think about the mistakes that we made, we gave up 2 threes to Maddie Connor that were scheme mistakes. Don't switch a ball screen, she hits a 3. I promise you the scheme was to switch the ball screen. But I've got someone in the game not used to guarding that position, being in that situation, because Bella's in foul trouble and Bugs is in street clothes, which is not an excuse, but it's real. Aaliyah Matharu helps out and tags a roller when it's not her job to tag a roller, and we give her a 3. Like, you can't make those types of mistakes when you're trying to beat a top 10 team. And I think how veteran they are. I mean, Sedona's been doing this for 7 years. Haley's, a 5th-year senior that's been through it. They just didn't break. They just didn't break. And I think everything they did was through those two. And so to me, our growth comes from, you guys, we were that close, but we can't make schematic mistakes. If Maddie Connor hits a transition 3 like she did at our place, where she kind of shoves off and steps back and hits it, you tip your cap and you say, great play. But when you leave her wide open in the corner, that's not the same thing, So I think, to me, when I think about how close we are, it comes down to the little things. It comes down to those execution moments. And then, for us, like, getting Bugs back is huge. When we're trying to manufacture offense and we're not successful, and you're missing the kid that goes and gets offensive rebounds at the highest percentage of anyone in our league, that's going to get you one in transition just because her energy's so dang good. We missed that. We missed that in that game, and we made up for it in so many ways down the stretch this season. But when you get into those games and you're trying to grind and you're trying to manufacture offense, and Nettie's in foul trouble and Bella's in foul trouble, not having a player that just goes and makes those type of plays impacts you.
Nikki, I don't know if you'll recall this, but we do. Paul, you and I, we lived it covering it. 2011, Baylor had a great basketball team, and they beat A&M twice in the conference, beat them in the Big 12 tournament, and then played them in the same regional, which I thought was a little bit crazy that they were in the same regional. And Gary Blair and A&M not only beat them after going 0-3, then he went on to win the national title that year. So there's a little history to that. Now, those were teams that were ranked both, I think, inside the top 5, but you're ranked. TCU's obviously, you mentioned top 10. Can you learn from that? Is that something that you could bring up?
Yeah, I think there's, for us, it's certainly that story you're not going to bring up unless that moment happens. If you have the opportunity to play him again,
yeah,
I think that's a great story. I think at this point it just becomes a lesson. It's a film session. It's a this is what it takes to win against elite teams, and we've been that close. And if we're going to get over the hump, whether it's against TCU or it's against another top 10 team, that certainly. You don't take any games for granted when it comes to the NCAA tournament. But if you're good enough to get out of your first and second round games, we're going to get a number 1 seed. There's a number 1 seed's probably not going down in the first 2 rounds at home. And so if you want to beat a number 1 seed, if you want to beat a 5, you got to play closer to perfect. You got to play perfect, but you got to play closer. The USC game told us that last year. We're right there, and we foul on an inbound, and with 3 seconds to go on the shot clock. So, there are little moments that are all growth opportunities But, in that, I was just proud of the way we turned around after losing to TCU at home and having to win basically at Iowa State, which when you play Iowa State in the Big 12 tournament, it's like playing at Iowa State,
Yep.
And then Oklahoma State, who beat us like a drum at our place this season, to turn that around and to put ourselves in that position, down a starter. That, yes, we've been down for a while, but 3 games in 3 days, that's going to impact you. I was just really proud that we were right there again. And no one hates losing more than me, and no one's more frustrated, to not have found a way to diagram just the right play in the right moment, because I actually live for those moments. I like being in those situations. So I just am looking forward to whatever's next.
And my last question for you, Vonleh, the transfer, had a big year for you. I know there's a couple of possessions at the end of that game where she lost control of the ball. That happens. But you got her as a transfer from Colorado, and there were others you were able to bring in. When you make a call now, is it different than even 2 or 3 years ago when you came in with the WNBA glitz and glamour on your resume? Is it different now, Nikki, when you call or you go visit?
Yeah, it's, every year is different. Certainly, that first year when we won a conference championship, that portal was a really successful portal. It was Dre Edwards. It was Asia Blackwell. It was, that year was Bella Fauntleroy and Little Paige Buggs, and arguably our best, freshman class was coming off, obviously, the Baylor brand, the WNBA, and so I don't think we've ever had a problem, making calls, getting people to listen. But I certainly think each year this becomes more and more our program. And, coming off a Sweet 16, certainly people picked up the phone. I think every year is uniquely different. We went to the portal last spring and we had all our guards coming back, so we couldn't get the Haley Van Liss and players like her to really want to take calls, because they wanted, sure, you're a 1-year kid. You want to go into a situation where you're assured that you're going to be the girl, and you're going to have the playing time. But we were able to go get Aaronette, and now, we got to go probably get another post player. Right. And so, when you finish the season with a kid that is all tournament team, that hangs 37 in a late game situation, all of a sudden the post players in the portal are like, whoa, okay, Nikki Colin knows how to use a post player, where the year before it was like, does Nikki Colin know how to use a post player? She has none, because I was playing with power forwards at the 5. And so it's, the reality is you go and you sell a lot. You sell Baylor's history, you sell our development of players, you sell our relationships with players. Kids have good experiences at Baylor. We're teaching, this is an elite education, and we treat these kids right. We take care of them. Our resources are good. But it's about more than that. And I think that we're always going to develop talent, and we're going to put them. I think one of our strengths as a staff is putting players in position to be successful. And our teams could look different from year to year. What we're going to do is figure out how to play and be successful doing what we do. And so, the portal's going to portal this spring. We probably need to sign 5 players. We lose a starting 1, 2, and 5.
Mm-hmm.
And, we're going to have to make hay, just like everybody else. I mean, I don't care if you're TCU or Kansas State or Oklahoma State. We all have veteran teams. Utah, the top teams in our league besides Iowa State are senior heavy. And look around the country, most of the teams in the country are going to rely on this portal to be good or stay good, and so it's wild. It's wild, but it's where college athletics is at right now. And I'm just grateful to be at a place that puts us in position to go out and get involved with the top kids in the country.
I was at that game the Sunday you hosted TCU. Great crowd, obviously electric till the end, and even then, and then of course watched the game on Sunday. Good luck in the tournament. Hopefully a couple of games at home. And thanks for your time. We appreciate it. And congratulations. Your tournament, no question. Now the question is what seed and what does that mean? Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Nikki Colin, Baylor women's basketball coach with us on 365 Sports. Joseph Duarte, is he there? All right, let's just keep going. Joseph Duarte from the Houston Chronicle. Houston, 19-1 and back-to-back Big 12 championships and so much more. Joseph, Kelvin Sampson's a great coach. Houston has a great history. How thirsty, with the history of the program, how thirsty is this fan base to see something happen when they get to the tournament and maybe raise that trophy?
Well, it's like wandering the desert for 40 years and looking for that oasis. You're looking for that water. I mean, you've been around and you've known the history and Phi Slamma Jamma and the shot there at the end, Lorenzo Charles, and when you had a team with Hakeem and Clyde and so many other great players to never. It's probably one of the greatest teams to never have won a title. And then you fast forward through the decades, all the misery, all the empty arenas, and to see the rebirth under Kelvin Sampson. They're extremely thirsty. They have come close a couple of times. Injuries have gotten in the way in recent years. But you look at the team that Kelvin has this year and what else is out there in terms of contenders. Many feel like they have just as good a chance as Duke or Auburn to win this thing this year.
Joseph, there was a lot of talk, as they made the transition these last couple of years of just being in a new league and tougher competition. You must think that we're all idiots. I mean, 19-1 in the Big 12, it's like conference schmonference. Houston basketball is good to go, but I mean, my goodness, in all seriousness, 19-1 in conference play, I don't even think Kelvin Sampson probably would have projected something like that in this league.
Apparently, Houston's trying to transfer into the Western Conference of the NBA at this point. I mean, the Big 12 hasn't been anything, but no. In all seriousness, just what they've come in and done. I believe it's 33-4 in the 2 years during the regular season. Kelvin said it best. Teams don't do that. That's not supposed to happen at the beginning or maybe a couple weeks into Big 12 play. He thought that the eventual champion would have 4, maybe 5 losses. And we kind of joked with him the other day about would he like to amend that comment. And he just kind of, looked with amazement at what they've done. And, this was the year that, last year, yes, they were going to be new. They were replacing four starters off of the previous year. But this year they had 4 guys coming back, and that had never really happened since Kelvin had been here. And a lot of key pieces, whether it was L.J. Cryer or Jaywan Roberts, Emmanuel Sharp. Now, by the way, they were losing the Big 12 Player of the Year and Jamal Shedd, so they had to go out and find a suitable replacement, and they did with Milos Uzan from Oklahoma. But you put it all together, 19-1 is really special. And by the way, the one loss is by 1 point in overtime. So I don't think anyone would have scripted this, but it just goes to show what they've been able to put together here. And that's why a lot of people inside the program, they won't say it publicly, but they see some special things going on. And they feel like this could be a really deep run to San Antonio in the Final Four.
So Colorado rolls in tomorrow, red hot, winning these 2 games. And obviously this doesn't affect Houston could lose tomorrow. It's not going to change much of anything. Right. Like they kind of are where they are. But how difficult does it make it for Kelvin Sampson in that situation where nothing much is going to change, but you still want to see your guys go out there and compete and win some games? Now, they do only have to win a couple times as opposed to everybody else. Even still, this is a tricky thing, the Big 12 tournament.
It is, and I think this goes beyond Kelvin. A lot of coaches feel like what you have to do with 3 or 4 games in as many days that can get you this time of year. The main thing for Houston is health. A couple of years ago, they went into the American Athletic Conference tournament, pretty good health-wise. But then, Marcus Sasser gets hurt, I believe, in either the quarters or the semis, and he's really never the same after that. So that's number one. They want to be as healthy as possible going in, and they're a number one seed. I mean, I would find it hard to believe that they don't get that third number one behind Auburn and Duke. So what does this really do for you? Nothing really. Kelvin stresses that they'd like to win the tournament title, but last year they were blown out by Iowa State in the championship game, and we're still a number one. In that regard, you probably want your team back home sooner rather than later, just to get some rest and get ready. But they're going to play the games, and Colorado's tricky. It was a closer than many expected game in Boulder earlier this year, but it's tough to win that many games in a row. I think they only won 3 in the regular season, so this would be matching their entire season total in the span of 3 days against a Houston team that's just going to put you through the grinder defensively. So I would think at least game 1 for Houston should be pretty easily handled, and then you get a potential tough matchup in the Friday game with, I believe it's either Iowa State or BYU. That's the opponent. So that one could get tricky, and those are the type of games that you might have to get bruised up a little bit, and maybe the games you don't want to play if you can avoid them.
So, Joseph, non-tournament question for you here. You've now made a couple of laps through this Houston basketball schedule in the Big 12, and I think I asked you a year ago just for some of your impressions, but now you've had another 4 schools that have joined in and some other new road trips, but a couple laps around, and then also that influx of new teams. Just what are maybe some places that stand out or atmospheres that you've enjoyed, just things off the top of your head that come from this league and just what you've seen throughout the last 2 seasons?
Right. Well, Kansas is at the top in terms of atmosphere. I know it hasn't been the type of season that many expected from the preseason number 1, but Allen Fieldhouse, that's a bucket list. That's one of the great venues in college basketball. I got a chance to go to Arizona in the McHale Center this year. That place was electric. It's loud. These are 14,000 plus seat arenas. So, those 2 stood out for me. I went to Lubbock back in the day when I covered the Big 12, the first go around covering the Longhorns. Different atmosphere now. They're camping out and they're getting excited, and that was a really maybe it had to do with Patrick Mahomes being in the building, but that was a big Monday game. So those 3 places really are the ones that jumped out. And then I guess Foster Pavilion. I mean, if you can get past the boos from L.J. Cryer and actually get to focus on the game and not how much he's getting booed, that's another place that it's underrated maybe right now because it's so new. But I like it. I took my family to the game. They other than the Coke machines not working, apparently they had great reviews of the facility, and it's one of those there really isn't a bad seat in the place. But the Big 12's got a lot of cool places. There's some trips I didn't make. I haven't been to Morgantown yet. I haven't been to Hilton, and I hear that's another place that
it is.
People speak highly of in Iowa State, and they travel. It'll probably be a big Iowa State crowd for all their games here in Kansas City. But the Big 12. I went to Texas and I went to Oklahoma, those venues, and, what you replace them with are better or just as good or if not better places to watch basketball games.
Joseph, Quantas White played for Kelvin Sampson. What was a Final Four and Elite 8 teams back when he was there at Oklahoma when Kelvin was there. It's like a son. I mean, he's got a son on staff, but he's like a son, and he's going to coach at the University of Louisiana. It's a great opportunity. When you win, people get to know what are some of the other reasons other than Kelvin Sampson. How emotional is that? And he is going to be with them until the very end, right? No matter how long Houston continues to play.
Yeah, he's gonna stay with Houston until their postseason run ends. He'll get introduced in Lafayette on Monday, but you're right. This is a unique situation because Kelvin hasn't lost many staff members in his 11 years. Alvin Brooks took the head coaching job at Lamar, which the ties there with Baylor with his son having been a longtime assistant, and he's doing very well. And now Qantas has interviewed or been up for jobs in the past, and he's from Louisiana. He felt like this is the right time, and that's sort of what it's all about. Kelvin preaches about watering the roots and how this tree eventually will sprout out the different limbs and sort of shows what they've accomplished. And he'll Qantas is the latest. Kellen will be the head coach here in a couple years when Kelvin decides to step down. Hollis Price will get a job at some point. Casey Beard is another one. So it's a growing coaching tree. And Kelvin's had a lot of emotions lately between senior night and saying goodbye to Jaywan Roberts after 20 seasons as the power forward here, and then Qantas. Kelvin's had a lot. We joke about this, and somebody just brought it up to me. Jaywan's been here so long that Kellen's oldest child, I don't think, was born yet, and now she's 6 years old or a little bit older. Maybe she was 1 or 2, but Jaywan's been around this program for a really, really long time, and he sort of epitomizes what the family part of all of this is, because he has developed a strong and close bond with Kelvin Sampson, and it extends from the coaching staff all the way down to the players and the student managers and the grad assistants.
I know 15 other teams that aren't going to cry that he's graduating. That was an emotion saved just for Houston, because he's just a problem for everybody.
Yes,
but yeah, and you're like, I think the one other thing is like, are you going to find another guy who can shoot with both hands that just confuses people like that? That's going to be tough. This team is healthy. They are heading towards it. What is the thing that they don't match up well with that could be a bad draw for them, if anything?
That's a good question, because you look at the things that they do match up or they exceed other teams. The defense travels everywhere. I mean, they're going to like I said earlier, put you through a grinder, and then the rebound aspect of it, especially on the offensive end. And the thing that really a lot of people will be surprised that you look at the runs that they've made. He's had some good shooters, but this is, to me, the best shooting team that he's had, or the ability to especially shoot the threes that he's had during this time. There was the year that they had Corey Davis and Armani Brooks were both, I think, 100-plus three-pointers. That was a good first-shot team that they could beat you. This one is probably not quite there, but they have the ability to make shots, and I think that's going to be the key, because you asked what could be the difference, or teams could maybe take advantage of. They do get into some spurts where they go long stretches and don't score, or kind of go cold, and that can be a deal breaker in the NCAA tournament. But that's where the defense comes in. I watched them score 46 in the Elite Eight against Villanova after they went to the Final Four, but Villanova only scored, I believe, 50. So they can keep you in games even on your worst shooting nights. But that's going to have to be the deal, because they're deep. This is his deepest team. They go 1 to 8 at least, maybe 9. So that part of it is that they can rotate guys in. But, as everything goes, it's about health and injuries. You can't plan for them. They didn't expect Shed to suffer the sprained ankle in Sweet 16 last year. So to me, it's the intangibles, the things that you can't really prepare for, that would be what would derail this season at any point, just not being able to stay healthy, because it has not been on their side in recent years.
We had Joseph on started having him on, guys, back during realignment when Houston was about to join the Big 12, but just because you've covered Texas at the Chronicle forever. So I asked him about the segment today, and I said, can we get an email so we can get a video link? And he said, wait a minute, we're now going video link. You look great right there. But are you in your hotel room in KC?
Yeah, you and this high tech stuff. I'm like from the Kirk Bowles school of journalism. We don't do video. Although Kirk does like to see himself a lot.
Kirk still has a phone that does this.
Yeah,
it's a little flip.
Yeah,
it's a flip.
There
are no apps.
Yeah, Joseph, have you hit as a long time? We haven't been in a couple of years. Actually, since COVID, we haven't been back to the Big 12 tournament, which is one of my favorite things to be at. Have you explored the barbecue world yet in KC?
I mean, I'm from Texas. I mean, that's sort of what we get there. So I mean, don't want to come up here and eat it. But to answer your question, there's 3 spots on my list. I want to go to there's Joe's Barbecue. I've heard good things about them. Q39 is another one. And then, Gates Barbecue. There's also another one that I tried. What's the other one? Is that Arthur Bryant? Yeah, Arthur Bryant.
Yeah, Arthur Bryant's good. I would throw Jack Stack in the mix, but they're going to be in the Big 12 for a while, so you can always put it in.
Yeah, I'm going to come back a couple more times in this area, but you can't. I guess when in Rome, you try the local cuisine. But I mean, I get barbecue. I'm a Central Texas guy, so I grew up on that stuff.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it. Enjoy the tournament, and love watching Kelvin Sampson's teams. Always to watch him play. And Juwan Roberts was like, I don't know what year it was. He was in that team that played Baylor in the Final Four up in Indianapolis. I just realized that. That was 5 years ago.
LJ, LJ and him joked recently that they didn't remember each other from that game, and I couldn't believe this. We joke about it. J1 first got here when the current president was in his first term in office.
Oh my God!
So the guys, and they're still chanting one more year on senior night. I'm like, no, there's no more one more year.
Yeah,
He's done. He knows it. Time to move on.
Thank you, Joseph. Great stuff, buddy. Joseph Duarte covers Houston for the Houston Chronicle with us on 365 Sports. Around the corner, we are doing this every day, a college football team. The ACC is on the dock, and coming up, Duke in their 2025 schedule. We'll have that and more. This is 365 Sports. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, Loop 340 and east of 84 in Waco. And if you want to go by and see a bunch of trucks, SUVs, and, of course, what you have with Jeep, the Wagoneer, Grand Cherokee, the models that they have are all over the lot. Meanwhile, what they also have when it comes to Ram trucks, loaded Ram trucks. They have months where it's Ram Truck Month. In my opinion, it's Ram Truck Month every month. Ted Teague, David Gray, and the great people at Alan Samuels, because they will make it a good thing for you. You could go by and also see all the pre-owned cars that they had. I had this, it's been a couple of weeks ago, but a 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokee, 2023 Jeep Grand Wagoneer Series 2, loaded with all the amenities. First class ride reduced to $60,550 plus tax, title, and license. There's a lot of great cars that they have, the pre-owned cars. I bought mine in May of 2020. About a month, I think, one more payment away from paying that off. And it has been a wonderful car. I've loved it. There was a little bit of an issue with it, about 2 or 3 months ago. Had nothing to do with being pre-owned, had nothing to do with it being from Alan Samuels. It just was one of those weird, quirky things, and eventually got it fixed on the dealership. Well, no, the brand, Ford, took care of it. So they have great pre-owned cars. They have Ram trucks. They have Jeep Wagoneers, Grand Cherokees, and more. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
Automatic Chef is your local vending, office coffee, and micro market provider, delivering outstanding service to break rooms all over Central Texas for over 50 years. Automatic Chef brings the best products to your location at the best prices. With hundreds of choices in fresh food, coffee, snacks, and drinks, let Automatic Chef tailor a break room solution to your needs. Make break time great again with Automatic Chef. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchef.com.
Baylor alumni are more than 160,000 strong. When we all join hands to support our university, we don't just move the needle, we move mountains. Working together, we create life-changing opportunities for students on the field, in the classroom, in the laboratory, and in life for generations to come. So get connected. Get involved. Learn how at baylor.edu/alumni.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Petty Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclowt.com.
This is 365 Sports. Enjoying the show? Hit the like button and subscribe.
Welcome back to 365 Sports, and time to, well, stop down and talk about another college football schedule. We don't have a specific title for these segments, but we started off with the Big 12 going one school per day through all 16 schools, and now we are in the ACC, and we will get to the Big 10 and the SEC. We'll be doing this, I guess, most of the rest of the year until football season, but we will get to pretty much everybody. And this is a look in, not a preview, but just a look at and look in to the 2025 schedules for most of the teams around the country. And so today, alphabetically, brings us to the Duke Blue Devils, who are coming off of a 9-4 season under first-year head coach Manny Diaz. He's back. Coordinators are back. There has been a quarterback change as they go from Malik Murphy to Darian Mensah, the Tulane transfer, which was a very interesting switch that was made because, I don't know, I was surprised they just had the 1 year with Malik Murphy. Yep. But he moves on. Mensah comes in, and so now they're looking to build off of what was a very successful year and was knocking on the door of 10 wins, but obviously there will be some turnover as well. So what are they looking at in terms of their 2025 schedule? We'll start off with the opener, and that is Elon up first for the Duke Blue Devils in 2025. Played them last year in the opener as well. FCS opponent on Saturday, August the 30th. So that is how Duke will open things up, is with a gimme win, a paid win like everybody else has on their schedule. There to, for them, start things off. Others have it sort of scattered throughout. But Elon up first. So there's your nice season debut. Everybody come to the stadium, have fun, enjoy this win. And then from then on, it's a bit of a steeper climb potentially, as Saturday, September the 6th, they have a Big Ten opponent in Illinois, the Illini, with a very successful 2024 season in their own right. That will be at home. So Illinois, a nice non-conference opponent to test themselves there in week number 2. Then Saturday, September the 13th, what are the odds of this? What are the odds that you go to Tulane after taking their quarterback this offseason? But not only do you play the Green Wave, which is a dangerous enough opponent most years when it comes to the non-quote-unquote power schools, and obviously they've had some pretty good success. But, yeah, the year after you get Darian Mensah, and then you're traveling to New Orleans to play Tulane. So I find that pretty interesting as well. So that's week number 3. And we'll leave the non-con there, and it's not bye-week time just yet. They do have a couple that are very interesting the way that they're situated that I'll get to, but there's just the first 3 weeks. Elon at home, Illinois at home, and then at Tulane.
Yeah, that Tulane one, man. I think there might be some dudes ready to take a couple pops at Darian Mensah there.
I would think so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
a couple of his buddies probably want him.
Yeah,
You want to
just
hurt
like, hey.
not hurt, but you want to sack your buddy if you can.
Yeah,
talk a little noise.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Duke went ahead and told Malik Murphy, hey, go ahead and transfer. And they went and got Darian Mensah, which was a big move. And look, this is a Duke team that right now – they're in the best stretch of their entire existence in football, where they're winning 9 games more often than they're not.
9, 8, and 9 the last 3 years. Yep.
So they're doing well. This is tough, though, going to Tulane. Illinois got Luke Altmaier back again. Brett Bielema another year. That's a team that's going to be pretty fierce on defense, you would think. So, yeah, this is a tough 2-game stretch here. And they also – Craig, I know you're going to talk about it. This is the weirdest schedule we have done or will have done.
Yeah, when it comes to the buys.
I like to look at the early non-conference games of schools that don't get a lot of attention. Elon, I think, is even a school that back in the day maybe won a championship or two at some of the lower levels. Shane Gillis is a graduate of Elon. You know what their nickname is, their mascot?
The Phoenix.
The Phoenix. It's a great nickname.
Yeah,
Absolute
I like that.
Great name. I love it because it doesn't end in an S, but Shane Gillis, a graduate alum of Elon College.
Well, I don't think they'll have game day for that game. Unfortunately, we won't see a reunion of last year and him and Saban and all of that. Well, we probably will. They probably will have a reunion. This won't be for his alma mater versus Duke in week number 1.
Elon University. I said college university. Sorry about that, Craig.
So there was the non-conference schedule. Now they hit ACC conference play without a bye week at this point.
He did not graduate from Elon.
He's an alum.
He was asked to leave Elon University. Ultimately graduated from Westchester. He went to play for Army at first, football. And
I'm shocked that didn't work out.
Yeah, and then eventually
he seems so disciplined.
By the way, he's a playable character in the video game now for Notre Dame.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Really? Okay,
Yeah.
that's pretty interesting. Yeah, he has a big Notre Dame fan, right?
Yeah, that's when he and Saban kind of went back and forth at each other.
That's right. But yeah, so thanks for the clarification. There is a little bit of a difference, and I went there and I graduated from there. But there you go. Fair enough. So there's the non-conference schedule again. Not a break as they hit conference play, and will have played 6 consecutive weeks before their first break, but that conference opener will be at home after traveling to New Orleans to play Tulane, and it will be against the NC State Wolfpack. So that is how conference play will open up. Then it is a trip on Saturday, September the 27th, and I mentioned Saturday there for Duke. Every single game is a Saturday game. So that's a break you catch on the schedule that not everybody gets to enjoy. All Saturday games for them. So it's to Syracuse to take on Fran Brown and Company. The following Saturday, October the 4th, it's another road trip, this time all the way out to Cal. So you got the big, long cross-country trip to take on your longtime ACC nemesis, the Cal Golden Bears. But that is where you will finally catch your first off week is right after that. So pretty good timing there. If you have back-to-back road games, you'll have been on the road 3 out of the first 6 weeks, including 3 out of the last 4 weeks before you finally hit that first bye week. And you'll have that to just sit on for a second as we just analyze those first 6 games or so.
Yeah, they look, NC State, a lot of questions about them. Syracuse, at Syracuse, Fran Brown, year 2. I expect them to still be pretty good. Cal, again, a lot of questions. Lost their quarterback, Francisco Mendoza. He left. Fernando Mendoza. He left. So but it's still like they've got 2 games on this schedule where I'll tell you they're okay, and that's Elon and UConn. Like that's it. Like the
some
rest
people
of
would
it,
even say UConn, maybe not, just because they have a like there's people that really believe in what UConn's got going on. They're feisty. So, but I mean, you should still feel like you beat them if you're Duke. Yeah.
But I'm looking at the schedule, and especially given how weird it is, that could be a factor for them.
By the way, I meant to ask a second ago. Do y'all remember where Malik Murphy went by any chance?
Washington or Oregon State?
Oregon State.
Oregon State, yeah. Yep.
Oregon State. So that's where Malik Murphy is now, for those that don't recall. It kind of just happened sort of almost like quickly, it feels like. But so there you go. You get into your first bye week after trips to Syracuse and Cal. And then you come back after a couple weeks away on Saturday, October the 18th, and you're back at home, and you will take on hopefully a healthy Haynes King and the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, who ought to be a pretty spicy little team in the ACC this year. Perhaps I think that you like their chances to be super competitive. That was a fun team to watch last year, even though Haynes King was basically like had arms dangling and, was just so beat up, but still they were fun. So Saturday, October the 18th, they get Georgia Tech after the bye. And then guess what? They get their other bye. They play one game in 3 weeks. Their Georgia Tech game is sandwiched by byes right there in the middle of right in the heart of October. So you will have the October 4th game at Cal, bye. October 18th, home versus Georgia Tech, bye. And that is just the strangest set of byes. We've seen teams with 3 bye weeks because of when they start, but I've never seen, off the top of my head, ever 2 bye weeks that close together, where they're 2 out of the last 3 weeks.
I can tell you it happened to Baylor one time.
Oh, really?
And it was when it was when Bryce Petty got hurt, or Jordan Iver, because they had that transverse process fracture. So they weren't all worried about it because they was only going to maybe miss one game if it healed the right way. Because they had.
How did you know that Jordan Iver had a transverse?
Because Jordan told me.
I know. But lost you a job because of that.
It did. Yeah. But like that, I remember that because I remember asking about, like when I asked Philip Montgomery about it, he's like, well, it's not that bad if he's back because we've got a bye next week, then we have a game, then we have the other bye. But that was like back when they had like a random thing of 2 byes,
right?
And then they didn't do that until the last year or so. So, but yeah.
So there you go, a couple of bye weeks. I mean, is that not odd though? A bye week game, bye week.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, I don't know if that's good or not, but it's right there in the middle basically. So I could see where that would be advantageous to like really get super rested up. But it is.
Well, especially when after the second bye you're playing. Well, you'll get to that.
We'll get to that. Well, after the second bye, after 2 bye weeks in 3 weeks, and after Georgia Tech sandwiched in between, you return on Saturday, November the 1st, and you are on the road at Clemson. So you get what is the ACC favorite. Then Saturday, November 8th, or one of the ACC favorites. Saturday, November 8th, you're at UConn in a non-conference matchup, and UConn's not just some little, pushover program. I know that they're not somebody that jumps to mind, but they've been okay. So that's one that just we'll see where Duke is at that point in the schedule. But Saturday, November 8th, they are at UConn. Then November the 15th, it's back home for their first home game in nearly a month, as they will take on the Virginia Cavaliers. Then next Saturday, on the road to face Bill Belichick and the North Carolina Tar Heels. And finally, their last game of the season, which will be at home against Wake Forest.
Who beat them last year.
Is the 2025
No,
Duke.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
What?
No, I thought Wake Forest beat them last year, but I'm looking at the wrong schedule.
Okay, so that is the Duke 2025 football schedule there for you. A couple weird bye weeks. They do not play Florida State, which is a shame, especially after the win last year.
The first one in school history.
It was. So where was that on your – I mean, I know at that point Florida State was like 1-6.
Rock bottom?
Okay, was that rock bottom?
That's rock bottom to me, to lose to a team that you've never lost to. And in all that time has only been with one score of you once. Once.
Really?
Yes. So then to lose to them is like, that's the game I wanted to go. Like if you had just put me in a room with Mike Norvell, I'd have been like, that only one time in the entire history of Florida State playing Duke have they even been close to winning. And I guess you can say 2 because – last year before Riley Leonard, or 23 before Riley Leonard got hurt, they could have, but that they didn't. They were 2 scores down at the end of it, and that's what matters. But this is the only time you've lost, and you weren't in the game at all. So
it's because Malik Murphy threw for a dazzling 70 yards in that game.
It was. I mean, like here's the thing. They weren't in the game at all, but they were in the game. Like, if you had an offense that could,
walk and chew gum?
Pee standing up, I don't know, but they could not. They just could not.
Yeah, well, there's no back-to-back wins. I mean, I guess if there is, it would have to be interrupted by this year because no Florida State on the schedule and no Miami on the schedule.
Florida State's dodging them.
Yeah.
What?
Florida State's dodging them.
No Florida State on the schedule, no Miami on the schedule, no SMU on the schedule, no Louisville on the schedule. So, Virginia Tech I don't quite view in that same category. I guess they'd be, kind of maybe sort of, depending on how you want to look at it, but no Virginia Tech either on the schedule. They didn't play Clemson last year, but Clemson, for example, is back on. So this is the whole large conference. You miss out on multiple teams. You get multiple ones back. So that's your trade-off is some of these like Clemson come back. But, yeah, no FSU, which most years you'd be like, oh, well, that's a break. Well, now it's like, is it? We don't know. No Miami's a break, though, probably. No SMU's probably a break. No Louisville could be a break as well. So that's who they miss out on, and that is where we stand with the Duke Blue Devils and what they face. I mean, they got Clemson. They got the tough non-conference schedule, but, beyond that, I feel like there's a lot of winnable games potentially on there for them.
Mention that. They had a 10-win team under Cutcliffe, maybe one or two that won 9 or so, but they're 9 wins and 8 wins under Elko and then 9 wins under Manny Diaz. So they're in a pretty good stretch right now. So maybe they have expectations to win 8 or 9 or better. By the way, Syracuse, speaking of which, is, of course, on the schedule. They lose, of course, their quarterback that was at Ohio State, McCord. Redshirt freshman Jakari Williams and LSU transfer Nikki Colin are the ones battling this spring for the starting quarterback spot. Just to throw that in there, I know we'll do Syracuse several days from now because we're going in alphabetical order. Okay, anything else, Greg?
No, if y'all have any other thoughts on that, I think it's a pretty favorable schedule conference-wise. I think you could definitely see a path to where you're winning 9 games again and possibly even 10 if the things fall right. Duke did make it to a bowl game as well last year and fell to Ole Miss there in the bowl game, but I think that's pretty much a given for you as well, is expecting that you'll get to at least 6 wins with Manny Diaz in year number 2 and the move you made to get Mensa and so on and so forth. So, yeah, I think the postseason should be an absolute given, and then beyond that, we'll see how high they take it. This is just glancing, but on paper, which is this whole exercise, is I think a favorable and still interesting, entertaining schedule for them.
Well, if Florida State not on the schedule, they can't take advantage of them. So
that's look. Here's the thing: I'm thrilled that Duke isn't on the schedule.
You know that after they beat Florida State last year, they were so pumped up to beat the Seminoles. They ended up they were beaten back-to-back nights, and one of them was Miami drilled them by about 20, 25.
Yeah, and look, MSU's schedule is hard enough. They don't need to throw in Duke with a better quarterback.
Hey, I remember when Mangino and KU hadn't beaten Nebraska in forever and then put up a 70 spot on them, or maybe 76 one year when they had that great run with Mangino for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah,
all right.
We get to talk about FSU tomorrow, as a matter of fact.
Oh, great.
Yeah. Okay.
Ooh, I didn't
wait
realize
for
who they
that.
opened
There will be
up with.
absolutely no trolling whatsoever during that segment. But, yeah, I think, too, in looking at this, I don't do this because I don't get to travel around. I'm definitely not some highfalutin, alum that goes from game to game all over the country. Just in general, we're busy on Saturdays for the most part. But I think, you got a New Orleans road trip on here early on if you're a Duke fan. You got a trip to Clemson on here. You go all the way out to Cal Berkeley, and, there's a really beautiful area of the country there. Go all the way up to Syracuse, New York.
Yep.
This is a very national road trip schedule. New York, California, New Orleans, Louisiana, Connecticut, South Carolina, North Carolina. So that's just something that stood out about this as well, as you can go on some pretty cool trips this year if you're a Duke fan.
I know there's a lot of great colleges academically in the ACC, but Duke is the one who probably fits the Cal Stanford mode more than anybody else, just because of what we think of Duke academically.
Yeah. They can hang.
Yeah. No, they sure can. Craig, anything else? Tomorrow it will be the Seminoles of Florida State with a great opener they have. We'll get to that tomorrow. One note, and then we get to Paul's top 5. This is something I remember. Junior Bridgeman. This is a story that's not about sports. He was a heck of a basketball player in the NBA. I did not know. You talk about a success story. Magic Johnson put out a note about Junior Bridgeman, who passed away, former NBA player with the Bucks. He goes, what people don't realize is Junior didn't make a fortune as a player. But what he turned into was something extraordinary, a billionaire, African-American businessman in the country, where he owned 450 Wendy's and Chili's franchises in 20 different states, Coca-Cola bottling operations in the United States and Canada, Ebony and Jet magazines, Valhalla Golf Club in Louisville, which has hosted a major, a minority owner of the Milwaukee Bucks, served on the PGA of America board, Churchill Downs, Fifth Third Bank, Jackson Hewitt, Governor's Scholar Program, Crusade for Children Foundation, and the University of Louisville Board of Trustees and Louisville Arena Authority. This guy was a rock star, hell of a basketball player, but an amazing businessman that I never knew about until, unfortunately, the news yesterday that he passed away, and I read the note that Magic Johnson put up.
Yeah, Magic Johnson also
as
good of a businessman as he was good a businessman as he was a basketball player.
Unbelievable story about a businessman that happened to also be known for what he did, shooting the basketball or dribbling the basketball or passing and rebounding the basketball. When we come back, Paul Catalina and his top five.
Richard Carr Motors has been serving Central Texas for 26 years, and they are celebrating with anniversary sales savings going on right now. For example, you can get a 2024 GMC Sierra 1500 SLE, and qualified buyers can also save $11,750 on that 2024 GMC Sierra 1500 SLE with an eligible trade-in. Also, they have a lot of excitement if you're looking to drive something a little bit different, an electric vehicle perhaps, but not just any everyday plain Jane electric vehicle. They've got the Cadillac Lyrics. Come by and test drive a Cadillac Lyric today and experience the difference in the EVs and the models and what they have there. They can show you all the bells, whistles, and the differences and the improvements or just whatever detail you're looking to get into. They can get into that discussion with you over there at Richard Carr, available on the website, all of their different deals. You can take a look at those right now. You can give them a phone call. You can go see them in person as well. But right now, with qualified buy and save over $11,000 on a 2024 GMC Sierra 1500 SLE, or check out something completely different with the Cadillac Lyric electric vehicle. They're locally owned, locally run, celebrating 26 years in Waco, doing business. A dealership that gives back to the Waco community and to Baylor as well. Deal people you can count on, and check out great deals right now over at Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac.
You might ask yourself what functional mushrooms are good for. Whether it's lion's mane, cordyceps, turkey tail, shiitake, reishi, they all serve a purpose.
You have ones for neurological health, ones for sleeping and gut health and all these different areas. They pack a powerful punch.
Functional mushrooms are, of the millions of mushrooms and fungi out there, the ones that we can actually ingest and benefit from as humans.
Like all adaptogens, they kind of adapt to what you need at the time that you need them.
We don't even really know that we're suffering. We just don't quite feel right. That's where these adaptogens come in and really start to close the gap and really start getting us closer to how we want to feel.
Functional mushrooms have definitely re-energized me and helped me face each day with a new vigor for life.
Learn ways that functional mushrooms can help you. Go to getumble.com.
You spent hours selecting your patio sofa. Choosing that grill would have taken weeks. Probably your car needed way more time. For sure, you would have spent months mulling over that pool of yours. Protecting your prized possessions needs no time though. Just visit coversandall.com, create a custom size per your requirements, pick a fabric and personalize your cover. And leave the rest to us. Premium protection for all that you love.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 brought to you by Ticket Club. Forget the fees, just big savings. Click the link in the description to find out more.
Welcome into Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Ticket Club. Today, we're going to stay in the NFL and do puzzling free agency choices. Let's go, number 5. Anyone waiting on Aaron Rodgers? This is you, Giants. And Aaron Rodgers and the Giants, I don't know why Aaron Rodgers would go to the Giants. He's not going to win a Super Bowl with the Giants this season. Also, the Steelers. Now, I think that's probably where he's going to wind up, and they appeared ready to wait for him, but may have to wait a whole month for it, which means Russell Wilson may have to wait some time for this. It's a very bizarre thing, how desperate you get for a quarterback and thirsty. Aaron Rodgers is cooked. He's done. Like the last 2 years have shown us that. He had an Achilles tear at age 39. He's 41 now. He's not the same guy he was. And if anything, he's more trouble than he's worth. So for God's sakes, don't wait on him. Make a plan. If he shows up and wants to play for a year, then maybe bring him in. But don't build your offseason around this guy. It's over. It's just over. Number 4, trading for Geno Smith. The Raiders, how bad the Raiders have it. They're picking 6th, which means they may or may not get a shot at Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders. We don't know. So yes, they had to have a backup plan, and Pete Carroll is the one who helped rediscover Geno Smith's career. But trading for him and committing a couple years to him, to me, is a little bizarre given the fact that he's just kind of okay. Now, is Geno Smith an upgrade for the Raiders? Yes, but this is not the guy who's probably going to get it done for you. This is a bridge quarterback, and really it's a 3-year deal, but a 2-year deal, one of those things. But also giving up draft capital for Geno Smith, to me, just seems a little bizarre. I personally wouldn't have done it, but again, I'm not running the Raiders. Number 3, signing Daniel Jones to possibly start. The Colts have brought in Daniel Jones to compete with Anthony Richardson. Now, the good news is both those quarterbacks have similar skill sets and that they're both dual threat guys. But neither of them are well-established passers. And Anthony Richardson, I mean, he didn't make a bad financial decision by coming out early from Florida, but he really needed some more time to start and play in games for the Gators before he was genuinely ready for the NFL, and we've seen that. He's had moments where his superior athleticism is just a wow moment, and then times where he looks like a guy who hasn't played a whole lot of football as a starting quarterback at the high levels. Daniel Jones has played a lot of football as a starting quarterback at the high levels, and we know exactly how that goes. So the Colts have one option with potential and one option that if he's your starter, man, some folks are getting fired, and it's a total rebuild in Indianapolis. They better be pretty confident with what they're doing because, man, that's a really dicey quarterback situation in Indy. And the other thing about Anthony Richardson, he has not been able to stay healthy. Number 2, building around Sam Darnold. Yes, he had a fantastic year this year. And the Seahawks traded away Geno Smith knowing that they had a great shot to go and get him. They went and they got him. They set it up around him. But that's a lot to build on 1 year. Is this guy like a Rich Gannon who, bounced around for a little while and then found his groove? Maybe so. And maybe that's true. This could be a big deal for the Seahawks, or it could be a big bust. We will see. But the Seahawks have blown up their whole offense, and I doubt that Sam Darnold's going to be much better without DK Metcalf there. Now, look, Jackson Smith-Njigba is a rising star in the league, and I'm sure they will do something in the draft at that position as well. But this is a Seahawks team that might look a lot different than what we've been used to for the last few years. And number 1, the Saints' whole plan. It appears they have concepts of a plan. And they really, if they want to give Kellen Moore a shot, need to give him a shot to rebuild the whole thing. But keeping Derek Carr and not moving on is probably more indicative of the quarterback market than it is their whole long-term plan. But, they've done some things, and they were in salary cap jail, as opposed to giving him a full clean-out year just to deal with it and install his systems and build from there. They're kind of holding him back, and it's kind of unclear what they're going to do moving forward, and they better hit it and hit it hard in the draft. Otherwise, it's probably not going to be a great season for Kellen Moore year 1 in New Orleans, but they need a clean-out year for sure, and they haven't fully committed to that yet, and that's what's surprising to me. That's going to do it for the top 5. That's going to do it for the show. See you later, everybody.
All right, Paul, thank you very much. Andrew Valade running the mothership for the third day. Craig Smoak and Paul Catalina, of course, with me right here on 365 Sports. We got a pretty interesting lineup tomorrow and opening up with Max Olson will start us off tomorrow after we go on the air at 3 at 3:30. 365 Sports tonight at 10:30 on the local CW. Emery Winter is working on that. And we appreciate all of our great sponsors. Those who watch us on 365 Sports YouTube or on 365 Sports YT on Twitter, I'm David Smoak. Thanks for your time. As always, have a great night.